They like the chaos.
They like the chaos. So when you're able to
chaos,
let that chaos reign with
chaos,
let that chaos reign with
chaos,
let that chaos reign with
must reign.
Okay, let's go on to Femi. What say you?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hi. So, Dr. Thunder, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm Take a Bite. And last week I asked you a question, and you thought that I was trolling. And I didn't understand it. I'm just a woman trying to understand some things. So, right now I was listening, and I didn't listen to this lady's whole thing. I'm not going to say that. I've been up doing things around the house. But I'm trying to understand, as a woman, why are men so focused on things like this? Let's just say, like I said, I didn't listen to her whole thing, not just on your show. Anytime this thing popped up, right? Um, I'm trying to figure out what interests men in the sex life of a 55-year-old woman, because I'm not 55 or close to that, but I'm not interested in that. And the man had just said something about being a cat lady or this and this and that. As an adult and as a person that came from a two-parent household, I can understand that there are people that are going to be single in life. There are people that are going to be married in life. Just because somebody's single doesn't mean that they're unhappy, or just because somebody's married, that doesn't mean that they're going to be happy. So I'm trying to figure out, why do our men, the men that we come from, spend so much time, especially if you're a doctor and a pastor?
Pray that God will not only hear, but God.
Why do we spend so much time like discouraging our people as Black people,
Okay,
discouraging them from marriage?
So here's my my general issue with our interaction the last time, and then we can fast forward, because I know you've done a few videos where you still haven't done the sort of basic reconnaissance to figure out who I actually am and what it is that I actually do. Okay, because you're still calling me a pastor. I'm not a pastor.
Well, somebody in your chat called you a pastor.
Okay, now
so
if you understand, this is an inside joke now, because you started calling me a pastor.
Pray that God will not only hear, but God.
So they're calling me pastor as a joke.
I've been watching you,
because
you know, just because I haven't said anything in the chat doesn't mean that I wasn't watching you. So I've seen the men call you a pastor. That's where I got it from. Yeah. Where else would I get it from?
Okay, so you assumed it to be the case. I saw your first video. You even said in your video.
Thank you. I'm glad. Thank you so much. That was so nice of you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm open to having conversations with folks. I don't like people coming in with a disingenuous sort of frame.
I'm not being disingenuous.
You were being
you
were being totally disingenuous in your videos. So one, you represented that you just basically got kicked out because I didn't want to answer your question. That's false, because I was answering your question as you were going back and forth in the chat and back and forth with me. I answered several of your questions. Now, you might not have liked my answer, but your assessment that I kicked you out because I didn't have the intellectual capacity to be able to.
I didn't say that.
Yes,
I never
you did.
said that. Don't put words in my mouth.
No, I can play your video. I mean, and actually, I did review a couple of your videos. And so to suggest that I didn't have the intellectual capacity to respond to your questions, and so that's why I kicked you out, because I couldn't answer your question, is totally and completely disingenuous. And then you continue to call me a pastor on your platform when I'm not a pastor. I'm a tenured professor. I'm a
Okay,
musician.
regardless, you're a grown
I'm a
man
hey,
that
hold up,
regardless
hold
of
up,
what your
hold up,
education is, I would look up to you as a grown man.
okay.
It doesn't matter
No,
what
no,
age you
hold
are.
up. I'm a father. I'm a husband for 17 years. I'm you know, there's several other things about me.
I didn't know that.
Now,
So can I ask you another question since I know this now? So if you're a husband for
I'm going to
17
work.
years, this is my question. For men who are husbands, why are y'all and I looked through your content. I didn't watch everything. I just glanced, you know how you scroll. I'm not seeing anything. I'm sure you love your wife. I'm sure that there's things that your wife does that you love. I'm sure that you love the sparkle in her eye. You probably like her thighs. You probably like her cooking. But when I come on your platform, I don't see you teaching men the value of loving a woman. It's always, oh, look at these women. They're going to be cat ladies. How is that benefiting these men in the chat?
okay, so what? So again, in your pedestrian view of my of my content by just perusing and looking at some images, you're not going to know what it is that I actually talk about.
It's a first impression.
I
It's
am
not a projection. It's a first impression.
okay.
This is the first impression that you're getting.
Okay, so now I would say that that's
saluting face emoji
1
to
second.
General Dr. Thunder, cloud with lightning and rain emoji.
Thank you, Hashim Shabazz. So my content is black, male, and boy centered content. I address things from a black male and black boy centered context. That's the way that this content is. I talk about things that men want to talk about the way that they want to talk about them. I'm not going to apologize for giving men a space to speak freely. I am a Christian.
So men want to talk about cat
no,
ladies and women stuff?
wait. You're going to get, if you keep trying to overtalk, you're going to get muted.
I'm sorry. I only have a short amount of time. I have to go. So I just kind of wanted my question answered because I got to go. I'm going to hang up soon. I mean, I know we're not on the phone call. It seems like it. But I just kind of wanted my question answered directly. I can come up again when I have more time, but I only have a short amount of time. So I'm just asking this is my first impression of you. You can call it pedestrian or whatever you like. But when somebody goes through somebody's page, they dictate if they want to follow them or not. So from what you're telling me, from the men that you follow, they don't want to hear about your good marriage. They only want to hear about 55-year-old
so again,
women.
You're being 100% disingenuous. So
I'm
about to keep. I'm about to keep.
Yes or no?
No. Well, I'm telling you. I mean, I told you what the situation is. What the content.
You just told me that you are doing content that men want to hear. So as a woman, I'm not.
My content is not for women. Okay, so
okay, but this content that this woman is doing is not for men, and you're still reviewing it.
Okay,
it's for women to understand. It's not for men.
Yeah, so you apparently you don't understand how this works.
Baby, quit telling me I don't understand. I've been on YouTube for a long time. I've been in these spaces. I understand a lot.
Okay, well,
what
you don't understand
is why you're not directly answering my question as a very well-educated man.
Okay.
Why are you teaching? Why are you only reflecting to men the bad aspects
that's
of
false.
a relationship when you're in a good 17-year marriage?
That's false.
Okay, can you point me to a video that I could watch while I'm on my way out so I can listen to it while I'm in my car? And I'll listen
to the woman
it,
on
and
the
then
panel,
I'll come back and talk
if you
to you later.
support the lifestyle expressed by
do you have
Summer
anything in
and
your
Tracy
playlist?
Ellis Ross, could you please explain why?
Okay, hold up here. Let me see what this super chat said. It says to the woman on the panel, if you support the lifestyle expressed by Cree Summer and Tracy Ellis Ross, could you please explain why? I mean, that's something I think.
No, I'm not. He gave you that money for a super chat. I'm not explaining nothing to him. I'm asking you a question. You have a male audience. The black community is in shambles, right? The black
the primary community,
the black.
Listen,
hold on,
no. Wait.
I didn't mean to trigger y'all.
So
I didn't mean to trigger y'all.
I'm tired. We're tired of hearing you just babble.
Okay.
We don't need to. We've heard 1,001 videos.
So hold up. Wait.
We are tired.
Wait. So the primary thing that I call out is the rebellion against the natural order. And the natural order is God over man, man over wife, wife over children. That is the structure that produces the healthiest families. That is the structure that has been totally rebelled against in the Black community. And the primary vehicle that has been used to rebel against this order is feminism. Okay, and to the extent
you think it's feminism?
No. Listen.
You don't think it's the rap music or men telling each other to smash each other's girls, or
she
men
just
telling
tried
each
to
other
mommy you
to explore their options when they have women? You don't think it's just feminism?
So
do
to
y'all
the
know
extent,
what feminism did?
Okay,
I don't want to talk
to
about
the extent,
feminism, though.
to the extent.
I only have 3 more minutes. I don't want to talk about feminism.
Okay, so that's
I
that's
want to understand why a man who has a healthy marriage.
Okay, so again, that's
to
the point.
Men about healthy marriages.
Okay, so again, to the extent.
And you can tag me in the video.
Okay,
says she understands
you're
but doesn't
done.
understand how be quiet while others are speaking. Drop her.
Why are you muting me? What's the issue? I have to go. It's 10. It's
okay,
10:03
so again, you're not going to overtalk. I'm explaining to you what the purpose of my content
This woman is
what I'm
detractor.
focused on.
All I asked you to do was answer my question.
You're done.
Oh my God! You go yourself. If Jesus can't save these hoes, why are you trying? What make you think you greater than Jesus, nigga?
Let me get my man Chaos. He's up here. Chaos, you're on the air. Go right ahead, brother. Chaos Rain, you're on the air. Go right ahead. You got to unmute your mic.
All right. Hello. Sorry, I apologize. I'm the very first one on your cam up video. What's good, Obsidian?
Hey, what's going on, brother?
I've been watching all the playbacks. Yeah, and there's timestamps. One thing I do want to say, these 49ers will never get it, Obsidian, because they refuse to get it because in their back of their head, they think there's some man out there that will take them. Because with a lot of modern women today, especially in the West, once you give them the D, that's all the validation they will accept. And anything beyond the D, they're going to get nervous. And you will know personally, because you could tell by the frustration on a lot of lovely ladies. The ones that could be either big, unattractive. You could tell from the look of their eyes, they're not getting not one dick or attention at all. So they force themselves, to create books. Like I think today's book, I'm not sure what book that is. That's a wonderful book you have there. That red book. What book is that of the night? Let me ask.
Yeah. I mean, it's really sad. I mean, these ladies, and now we know what's going on. Because of technology, Chaos Rain, these ladies have access to sexy, high-value men. But the trick is, it's only for a night or a weekend. But these ladies then think because I was able to get him for a night or a weekend, I now qualify for him for a relationship. Then they call people like our brother Kevin and heckle the head out of him and make his life a living hell and drive him into an early grave. Instead of accepting that was just a one-off fling. My guy is a 4 because I'm a 4. My guy is a 5 because I'm a 5. They don't see it that way. They think because they was able to get some large pleasure-inducing penis, that therefore they qualify for that every day. They do not. Your response?
No, they don't. And not only they don't qualify, most men at a point in their life, they just sit there and say, all right, I had fun with this one. Next woman. And they don't get it until they get ghosted or they don't receive the callback on the average. That's one thing they don't understand. Even the Swedish woman.
Hang on a second, Pet Chaos. Not to cut you off. You make a really good point. A lot of ladies are complaining about being ghosted, but we have to ask a question. Why are they being ghosted? Are they really being ghosted, or is it simply a situation that there was a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, for a sexually high-value man with a large pleasure-inducing penis. The way that they describe it, it makes you think that they're in a relationship with this man and all of a sudden he disappeared. What if the real deal is you were able as a 4 to get with a 9 for a night? He wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and that was it. What if that was the situation? Did he really ghost you? Do you see what I'm saying, Chaos Reign?
Yeah, and it's good for I mention that too, because we got to think about the ghosting. And you explained this detail on the last 2 live streams, if I remember closely. And people got to go back to really understand why you mentioned the ghosting aspect and why men should do it. But there's reasons for why men, especially ones that's the high caliber or the high value, they will ghost you even more. Not to mention the dudes that can get access to you, but the ones that's really up there, they don't have to really say much. They'll just disappear. But really, truly, oh man, even the what do you call it? The not the letter, but what they call it? What you call it? You call it something special that you're giving these ladies the walking papers, saying exit interview. Yes. Yeah, a lot of them need to hear that more. Personally, I would agree. I don't think the ghosting doesn't really work because they're not learning. I don't know if you want to agree or disagree with me, but I think with most modern women today, they need to learn why things happen because they always go to school every day. They go to school for learning from other people. So it should be a learning lesson from a man, a modern man or a black man to explain why this is. Because think about this. How often do you think their mothers teaching their daughters? For every action, there's reaction, like really schooling them, like literally. If the father's around, he would explain more to his daughter than the mother. Can we agree? And Miss Letitia's trying to get her laptop ready, so she's gonna come up.
Yeah. We're waiting for her to join us. I really want to talk to her for a minute.
Yes,
let me see if she's here. She hasn't got up here yet. Let me get my man Jalen while we wait for Miss Letitia Underwood. Jalen, you're on the air. Go right ahead, brother. Thank you for calling in. Go right ahead. Yes, what do you think about this 49er issue? Have you been following this along with me as I presented it? And what are your thoughts? Speak up, speak nice and loud, speak with your full chest, because my monitors are out, but I'm going through my television set. So speak up with your full chest so I can hear you. Go right ahead.
Yeah, about the woman, I think she a feminist. That's exactly why I said this before. These feminists condition these women that hate men. That's exactly why I said this before. Feminists should be boycotting. That's exactly why I said this before. These women were never going to get married because of that feminist mindset. Yeah.
Okay. My monitors are not here.
Oh, damn.
Let me see if I can turn this up. Try that again.
Yeah, I'm saying you wonder why these women hate men, because these women got bad traumas because due to bad relationships. That's the problem. And they turn into a feminist woman. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Miss Letitia Underwood is here. Let's bring up Miss Letitia Underwood. How you doing, Miss Letitia Underwood? Thank you for being here. Oh, you're on the camera. It's so nice. Thank you so much.
I am.
Excellent.
Miss Letitia, have you been following? And I've been sending you these studies, the study that Mads Larson did on all this about the incels and the insings. And you can see Miss Amanda Romare, the author of the book, Half of Malmo Consists of Guys Who Dump Me. You've seen photographs of her. Miss Average at Best with Kevin. What do you think about all this? Because a lot of the things you've been saying is true. So you've been saying for the longest time, Miss Letitia Underwood, that a lot of women today are no longer interested in he's a good man, he'll love you, he's a good provider. They want a sexy guy. You've been saying this for a long time. And many people have been poo-pooing you, say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, so on and so forth. No, you were right. The evidence, the academic evidence, as far away as Oslo, Norway, bears you out. The women want a sexy man, tall, good-looking, muscular, great jawline, charismatic, educated, and with and I quote, a large pleasure-inducing penis. You've been saying this for years. You were right.
So, good evening, Obsidian. Good evening to the panelists and your guests that are your viewers. Yeah, so the information you've been seeing me, I have not been able to look it over. I've been dealing with a lot, with school, some other things, and some family matters. But yes, I've been saying this for years now. I've had people misconstrue the point that I was making. They felt like I was leading women astray. Although I wasn't saying women should want this, I was just explaining why the current dating climate is the way it is, why women, as much as they complain about the type of men that they're actually dealing with, why they're not going towards the men who have the characteristic and traits of a man who is capable of being in and growing a healthy relationship. It's because we're in a culture and a society now where sex is very important and women can take care of themselves financially. So they're not willing to trade off bad sex. They're not willing to trade off lack of sexiness. They're not willing to trade off his good looks for the sake of financial stability. There are some women who will do that, but they're not in abundance. Most women are not willing to do that, are not going to do that.
Yeah. When you get a chance to read the paper, and it is pretty involved. All told, printed on my printer, on my laser printer, is 22-page document, PDF.
Okay.
With all the references, because it's an academic paper, with all the references and all the rest of it, it comes out to 22 pages in print. On my laser printer, your mileage may vary, but it's a pretty involved paper. I couldn't even read all of it on the air. I just highlighted certain sections of it. But what I did talk about, I was like, oh shit, this is what Miss Letitia Underwood's been talking about for years. I've seen her go take heavy fire for what she's been saying. This paper bears her out. This from over in the Nordic countries. So it's the same thing that's going on over there that's going on right here in Black America in the United States. The same thing. It's women all going, well, not all of them, but I'll say the majority of them, somewhere north of 50%, are gravitating toward a very small group of men on Tinder and other dating apps. They get into a no strings attached sexual relationship, short term. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. They're hoping that they get a call back. They never get a call back. Then they complain he's a fuck boy. He's a dog. He's a douche. He's an asshole. He ghosted me. And I'm saying, no, he didn't ghost you. He wasn't a douche. He's not a fuck boy. What you did was you're here, you're down here, and he's up here. And you think that because you was able to get up here for a night, that means that you're going to be there forever. No, you was just there for a night. You go back down to here. Your response to that, Miss Letitia?
I agree. I think that some guys, may entertain for a second off of the picture. She may seem like she's interesting. She may seem attractive. But this is why they end up asking for a second picture, some more pictures, or if they did a FaceTime, and then they just decide that the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. He wasn't interested, and unfortunately, like I tell people, I'm like, you don't get so upset about online dating. I know it's frustrating, but the fact of the matter is, that's all you really have to go off of is physical attraction first. So you want to make sure that you are physically appealing, but you also want to make sure you're being authentic so that who you are in your pictures and your profile shows that when you do have that FaceTime call or you do end up getting that first date, because there's nothing like the picture, right? And then you go on the first date and she looks nothing like her picture. She or he looks nothing like their picture. And then that's when you'll see the guy starting to back off, become inconsistent, because men aren't inconsistent with interesting attractive women that they're actually physically attracted to.
Now, I just got finished sending you photographs of Miss Amanda Romer, author of the book. It's in Swedish, but the author of the book, Half of the Men of Malmo consist of men have dumped me. And you tell me where she ranks on the scale. Now, she's a Swedish woman, white Swedish woman. You tell me where she is on the scale to be trying to knock down nines and get them into a relationship. You tell me. You're the matchmaker. You tell me.
You said you sent me photos?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I just
Here they
texted them
go.
to you.
Oh, why'd you do? Wait, this is a woman?
Yes. While Miss Letitia Underwood is doing that, you're listening to After Office Hours with your host Mumia Obsidian Ali. We talked about the book of the evening, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Really good book. Make sure you look up the story of Sun Tzu and the King's Concubines. If you don't know what I'm talking about, run the tape back on the replay. You'll see what I mean. Certain editions of The Art of War does carry that anecdote. If not, it's easily found online. Very good part. I think that's arguably the best part of the book and the story of Sun Tzu. All the other 13 chapters are great. This is a special edition that I got.
You got the red book. You got the dragon book.
And all that. Great book. The Art of War. Every black man should read it. All right, Miss Letitia, have you had a chance to view these photographs?
I have. Why are you doing this to me?
Your verdict?
Is it on Facebook? Oh man, these photos?
Yeah, they're on Google. All you gotta do is just Google her name.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, just Google her name. Go ahead, Miss Letitia.
She has some great features. She just doesn't play them up. So presenting herself as is, it would be very difficult for her to snag a 9 because it doesn't seem like she really knows how to play up her features. She doesn't really seem to take herself that seriously. She doesn't. I guess she wants people to see that she doesn't really care about her look, how she looks, because she's not ugly. It's just the way that she styles her hair or her makeup at times or her wardrobe, all of that. She has a lot going on. So, but I could see a highly attractive man who's looking for marriage would probably not be interested long term.
I rate her. I'm gonna be honest with you. I rate her as at best a 5. At best. Yeah. And she wants. Are you familiar with the name Jake Gyllenhaal? Does that name ring a bell?
I am, with his little cutie patootie self.
Okay. So Miss Amanda Romare had a Jake Gyllenhaal lookalike who is a management consultant in her home city of Malmo, Sweden, who has a large central apartment. He's a Jake Gyllenhaal lookalike with a large pleasure-inducing penis. And they had a hookup after meeting on Tinder and meeting at the bar. And after hooking up, he never called her back for a second date, and she was very upset about that.
As I said, those types won't look at her long term.
Right.
To have fun with her. She looks like the type of girl who doesn't take herself seriously, doesn't have any boundaries. She's just looking to have fun.
Right.
Her look says, I don't take myself seriously. Like, I don't want anybody to think that I care that much because it's superficial.
Right.
But unfortunately, a man who wants more doesn't think like a woman. He wants someone that will take themselves seriously as far as how they look and how they portray themselves to others. So he's going to be looking for someone who is going to take care of themselves and take care of how they look.
Right. Now, I talked to some ladies earlier today who we were talking about this topic earlier today, and it was a number of ladies, and they requested some photographs of Miss Romare, so I sent them to her. And one lady said, "Oh, she's rather interesting looking." Another, you see where I'm going with this. When a woman is referred to as interesting looking, yeah, we know what that means. So these ladies are 49ers, what we call in the manosphere 49ers, women that are 4s who think that they are 9s. But there's a reason why they think that they are 9s, because the guys who are 9s with the large pleasure-inducing penises don't have a problem spending a night with a 4. The 4 gets to spend the night with the 9, and the 4 in the morning thinks, well, I must be a 9 because I spent the night with a 9. And then they go out and then they're disappointed because they really aren't a 9. They just spent the night with a 9.
Yes, because women think men are choosing like women. Like, women will not have sex with a guy or casual sex with a guy she does not find handsome.
Correct.
Unless it's for money, right? Women will not. So she's thinking well, he's sleeping with me. He sleeps with me. So that must mean he finds me physically attractive all over. Whereas no, short-term mating, men will break you down to your parts, your body parts.
Right.
So you have nice legs, you might have big breasts or nice breasts, you might have a nice butt, you might have a nice mouse, anything that they'll find attractive and they'll want to sleep with you, or it just maybe your sex appeal, or it just could be that you're gonna go, right? Like you're an easy lay. Whereas women don't mate like that. They don't select for that. So she's thinking like a woman rather than thinking of this like men. Whereas
So what happens, and again, you'll find out when you get time to read the paper, but just quickly, the bottom line is that these women and Sweden, I don't know if you know this, Sweden is one of the most feminist friendly countries on planet Earth. I don't know if you know
I'm familiar.
that. Yeah.
Yes, I'm familiar, but they're still, the women are complaining. Women are starting to complain.
And the reason why they're complaining is because the Jake Gyllenhaal lookalikes with the large pleasure-inducing penises will spend a night with them, but that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're complaining.
Right. And they won't engage in any romanticism. The men really took the women at heart. You're feminists, we're equals, so I don't have to engage in chivalry. I watched a documentary on this where the women they liked having independence. They liked being the little freedom and not being beholden to men. But then on the flip side, they're complaining that the men aren't romantic, that the men don't want relationships. So.
And when they say the men aren't romantic, let's be clear. They mean the Jake Gyllenhaal lookalikes with the large pleasure-inducing penis. All the other guys who don't qualify, they're not talking about them. They're talking about the small group of Jake Gyllenhaal lookalikes with a large pleasure-inducing penis. That's who they're talking about, so that we're clear. Because when women speak, and you know this, Miss Letitia Underwood, when women talk, they never specify specifically who they're talking about. So a lot of guys hear this and think it's all men. No, they're not talking about all men. They're talking about a very small group of guys who they can have sex with, but that's it.
Yes, and I've been saying that for years. Like, especially when I got on Clubhouse, I'm like, I was in a room full of men having this complaint, and I'm asking them, it's like, or telling them, like, you guys know they're not talking about you all. Unfortunately, they don't see the men that they don't want. They're only seeing the men that they do want. So when they say men, they're not talking about all men. They are talking about the guys that they have a high attraction for.
Correct. And the dating app situation really has, like, it's messed with women's innate mating psychology, because a lot of these women can have short-term mating access to these men, but it doesn't map over to long-term mating success. The women are hoping, if I can get him into a sexual situation, I can then kind of backdoor my way into a long-term relationship. It almost never works. If I had to put a number on it, maybe a 20% success rate, maybe. I'd be shocked if it was that.
It doesn't work because a lot of the women, that's all they have to bring to the equation is sex. They're not interesting. They're not intriguing. They're not abreast on topics beyond the superficial, the shallow pop culture. They lack depth. They lack depth for the type of men that they're describing. It's like they want the man whom they have high sexual attraction for to have high sex appeal. They want that man to be the marriage-minded, agreeable man who's sensitive to their emotions and will create an emotional safe space for them. So they want it all. Modern women want it all. They want good sex. They want to be able to look at him and get turned on by him. They want the romance. They want the fantasy. So, but unfortunately, the thing is that they have this mindset that the men that they're not looking at are all ugly and unattractive and lack sex appeal. And I was like, well, that's not true. I'll give you an example. So the movie Forever, if anybody's watched the series on Netflix called Forever, based on the book by Judy Blume, stars this young black man who's playing a high school character. His high school character is neurodivergent virgin. I'm sitting there with my two nieces, right? This guy, my sister and her two daughters, this guy is the perfect guy. He's very understanding, the romance, the perfect gentleman. They're sitting there like, oh, guys don't act like that anymore, right? They're like, guys, and I was like, no, that's not true, because I had a guy like that, right? My ex-husband was just like that, very considerate and romantic and just the perfect gentleman. And they're like, well, our age. Now they're 18 and 20. And I was like, yeah, I understand that, but I guarantee that there are guys your age who operate like this, but y'all wouldn't give them the time of day. Because the energy that they give is kind of like a little corny or lame. That's not my words, but that's the language that people use today. I said they come off a little corny, nerdy, socially awkward, and you guys don't seem to be attracted to that. So you can't say that guys like that don't exist. Just say you wouldn't be attracted to a guy like that, but you wish you could be, because you want to be treated like that. You want to feel special. You want to feel good and cherished with a guy. But the guys that you like won't do that. And so you're
well,
closed
they don't
off
do
to
it because
the
they don't
guys.
have to. They don't have to do it. They don't have to court. What was, not to cut you off, Miss Letitia Underwood, but what, and again, when you get a chance, because I know I kind of figured you was busy with school and so on and so forth. But when you get a chance and you get a chance to read the paper for yourself, sit down with it over the weekend or whenever you get time. The thing that really emerged out of Mads Larsen's research and findings, there are two lanes. There's the short-term mating lane. There's the long-term mating lane. Some people can play in both. That some men, some women can do both. But typically, most people, most of the time, tend to be really good in one or the other. And the men who are really good in the short-term lane, they got all the physical attributes, they have all the personality attributes, they have the sexual skills. They don't need to do long-term stuff. They don't need to court. They don't need to woo. They don't need to take you out. They don't need to be understanding. They don't need to be romantic in a long-term sense. In the short-term sense, sure, but in the long-term sense, they don't need to do all of that. All they need to do is bring a large pleasure-inducing penis and bubble gum, and they're fresh out of bubble gum. That's it. And the ladies don't seem to understand that. What do you make of that?
I think the ladies do understand. Once you get beyond 25, 27, you do have an understanding, but they want what they want. They think that they can either change a man or they can hold out until they find that perfect man. I'm astounded at how many women are like, I'll just hold out till I find the perfect man. Okay, what's the perfect man? All these characteristics. He's kind, he's considerate, he's God-fearing, and all these other things. And I was like, well, those men are actually in abundance. So what's preventing you from, meeting one? And I was like, I noticed you didn't put looks on there. Well, looks aren't everything. Well, if looks weren't everything, then you wouldn't be single, because there's plenty of men with good character, values, and morals who will cherish you, marry you, and take care of a family. They're in abundance, actually. They just don't come in a package that you want.
Right.
And so then I get the pushback of, well, I have to be attracted to him. And so I get them to accept and understand that what's really going on is the fact that they really do want a good-looking guy who is going to be sexually pleasing. They just don't want to admit that to themselves, because then if they admit it to themselves, it's going to make them feel like the little cheap 304s that are out here, or shallow, and they're always complaining that men are so shallow and superficial. But it's not shallow to want someone who is attractive. It's not shallow to want someone you're sexually compatible with. But you have to understand that what's your most important value? If marriage is your most important value, then you seek that. So what I'm getting them to understand is you are in fact engaging in short-term mating and trying to through a long-term mating mindset, and it's not going to work. It's not going to pan out for you.
Yeah, they're trying to backdoor it or try to reverse engineer it into a long-term thing. What was fascinating about the study, and again, you'll get a chance to read it when you sit down with it, coming out of the Scandinavian countries and mapping that over here to Black America, what I've noticed, Miss Letitia Underwood, a lot of Black women will say, and I was talking about this earlier today, a lot of Black women will say, men need to hold other men accountable, right? They'll say that. And I've always wondered, okay, exactly what does that mean? I now figured it out. What here in Black America, when they say Black men need to hold other men accountable, what they mean is you need to hold the Black version of the Jake Gyllenhaal with the large and pleasure-inducing penis. You need to make him treat me right. I went and gave myself to him, and you need to make him an honest woman out of me. You need to make him take me out. You need to make him make me a girlfriend. You need to make him marry me. You need to make him take care of this baby that I had for him. That's what they really mean. They want the guys that they're not sexually attracted to make the guys that they are sexually attracted to act right. What do you say about that?
Isn't that a form of
I completely agree.
Moment.
No, I don't think that's a form of cuckolding, no. But I definitely agree that that's what they mean, that they want, because it's like, well, I mean, you don't have to choose those men, but they know, they know, even subconsciously, they know that those men aren't in abundance. So they're hanging on to that. But it's like, okay, trying to get you, the guy that I don't want, I don't find appealing. Yeah, y'all need to get these men in line and tell them to take care of these kids I had by him and treat me right and be a gentleman, marry me and do right by me. Instead of looking at it as, I just shouldn't have chosen that guy. Or they will say, well, I shouldn't have chosen that guy. But still, you should talk to him and tell him what he has done wrong, as if he doesn't know. He just doesn't care because he didn't want you to begin with. But you're absolutely right that that's what holding someone accountable means. That's why I don't bother. I'm like, we're adults. There's no need to hold adults accountable for the choices that they make. If someone, like, you are fully aware that this person is not going to treat you right. This person is not going to do right by you. This guy has 5 babies with 4 different women. So what makes you think that you be baby mama number 5 with his 6th or 7th child, that he's going to do right by you? And then he doesn't. Do you want to get on social media crying that Black men don't hold other Black men accountable? For what? That's what you chose. And people do, like, in the age of social media, it's too much information being out there on how to avoid these type of men, these derelict men, as I called them before. It's too much information out there for people to still act like they don't know what's going on.
Right. So it's really fascinating to me. Now it's all really coming together. Like I said, shout out to Mads Larson. I'm going to see if I can try to contact him to get him on the show. Have a sit down with him, talk about this. But his work is really great, and it really brings home everything we've been saying in the Black manosphere for years. Kevin got a whole lot of grief. I get a whole lot of grief. The manosphere got a lot of grief. But his work, like the 80-20 rule, Alpha Fucks, Beta Bucks, 49ers, I mean, just those 3 alone, just them 3, we've been proven right. And so now, with the evidence that we have, dating apps and so on and so forth, now everybody admits, yes, the 80-20 rule is real. Nobody denies it anymore. Now we got to sit down and ask the ladies, well, if this is what you want to do, that's fine. But you have to understand these guys have zero incentive to court you, zero incentive to take you seriously, zero incentive. If you do have a child with him, you're almost guaranteed to take care of it on your own. If that's what you want to do, fine. But you can no longer claim to be a victim anymore. You're making a choice, and you have to live with your choice. Even in places like Sweden or Norway, where the average woman gets like 1.2 million in welfare subsidies. So I'll be honest with you, Miss Letitia, you know, it's hard for me to feel sorry for these ladies, but especially someone like Amanda Romeyer who lives in Sweden. It's hard for me to feel sorry for her. I mean, she's in her mid-30s. She's a grown-ass adult. She's making grown decisions. What am I supposed to say to that? She has gone 0 for 7, Miss Letitia Underwood. 0 for 7. She's had 7 Jake Gyllenhaal lookalikes with a large pleasure-inducing penis, and none of them have called her back for a second date. All 7 a sweep. And I'm supposed to feel sorry about that?
Of all 7 have not called her back, either she's lying to push an agenda or she doesn't realize that she's not interesting at all. You have to be pretty unlikable for 0 out of 7 to not call you back, because she's not like, she doesn't have features where you have to put a paper bag over her head. She just doesn't put herself in the best light. She doesn't know how to do her makeup, hair, and things of that nature to flip her features. But I think this more comes down to personality than anything. And if you're sitting there constantly spewing your agenda at a man on a date, yeah, they're gonna be turned off pretty quickly. Yeah, at that point, because if she met him online, they probably thought, oh, she's interesting, she's a writer, blogger, whatever she is. Sure, go out with her. But then on the date, realizing that I don't really like her personality, at that point, they're not going to want to waste their time or feel like they wasted their time. So it's like, okay, I paid for this meal, we went out, I'm going to get something out of it, meaning I'm going to have sex with her at the very least, so it doesn't feel like wasted time. Women always talk about how they're wasting their time. They don't think about how men's time are wasted on these dates when women turn out not to be who they say they are. They turn out not to be interesting. They don't know how to carry a conversation, or they're too busy and too self-indulgent to be interested in a guy on a date. So I think she's probably just very interested in how they look and not who they were as a person, and that's why she is 0 for 7.
Well, everything I can tell you haven't read the report or the article yet, the academic paper. When you read it, you'll see for yourself. According to what she wrote herself in her book, everything is about the appearance. It's about the looks. Can't argue with the incels and the black pills on this, because she's proving what they're saying is right. It's about the looks. It's about the sex. It's about the large pleasure-inducing penis. And I'm sitting there reading this. I'm like, Letitia talked about this for years. She talked about this for years based on her experience in the dating field, dating coaching, matchmaking, based on that. And this is not her opinion. This is based on her experience here in Black America, working with Black women. They focused on the same thing too. So that's fine. I mean, they have a right to do it. That's their choice. It's a free country over there in Sweden, feminist society. Fine. I just don't want them to complain about their choice.
Did she say the sex was good at least?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, here's the phrase, large pleasure-inducing penis.
Okay, so the sex was good.
Right.
But she wanted to parlay her short-term mating mindset into something more. She wanted the guy to care about her.
That's right.
Okay.
And she went 0 for 7. Now, that should tell. Now, I tell you right now, if I went 0 for 7, I'm like, okay, clearly this isn't working. Clearly. Mm-hmm. I may not like it, but I can't argue with the results. I got to do something different. She's not doing anything different. And a lot of women are not doing anything different. They're going to keep going after the 9. And the paper says these women are addicted to Tinder and dating apps and social media. They're also addicted to the large pleasure-inducing penis. So, so they're addicted in more ways than one. And it's really hard for them to break out of that mode. What do you say about that?
Yeah, it's because they're thrill-seeking. There is a sense of thrill pleasure they get from sitting across from a highly attractive man, and your nether regions are jumping or hopping, going crazy. So they're addicted to the thrill, and then biologically they're secreting dopamine. And that's why they can't break free of this cycle, because they've gotten to the point where now their body is mostly going to secrete and depend on the dopamine rather than oxytocin.
I think that the incels are getting short shrift here. I think that we're at a point now where incels are like, first of all, it's used as a slur or used as an insult. If I don't like you, or if I don't like what you said, or if I disagree with you, or if you make me mad or whatever, then I call you an incel. So there's that. It's gone to the point of sensationalism. So it's starting to, it's like Dusty in the black community. Dusty had a specific meaning and a legitimate one. But then black women just started using it as a multi-purpose, insult, right? All-purpose insult, where it started to lose its meaning. I think that's what's starting to happen with incels now. It's starting to lose its potency and meaning. Like you said, all 80% of the men ain't incels. That it just can't, that's mathematically impossible. But all of the men cannot be all sexually attractive, physically attractive, financially attractive, socially attractive. By definition, they can't be. That's going to be a very small percentage of men. And now women worldwide have access to these men through their smartphones, through the dating apps, Tinder. Matter of fact, you can do Tinder Passport and all this sort of stuff all around the world. So they have access to them. They can get them for a short time. They get digmatized. Then they get jaded and bitter and angry. And then they want to say men ain't shit. And it's like, no, the men that you chose, that's a small group of men who are legitimately attractive, ain't shit. I mean, the ladies are really in a situation here. They got to decide, like you said, they got to decide what's really important. If you really want commitment and you want to be treated, a certain way and wined and dined and all that, you're going to have to be willing to make some trade-offs. He may not have a really large pleasure-inducing penis. He may just have a medium-sized penis. He may not be towering at 6'3". He might be 5'7". He might not have the super hard, rock hard body and abs and all the rest of it. He might have something of a dad bod. You're going to have to make a decision. That's where I'm at with it. What do you say about that?
I agree. As long as he's well groomed and kempt, he looks kempt. I just think they can't get past it because unfortunately a lot of women have a lot of sexual experiences. And as much as they don't want to look at themselves as, 304 or loose or promiscuous women, when you have so many encounters, short-term encounters, when you are let down like that, like she's 047, you start your inability, you're not going to be able to pair bond. So your body is going to just rely on dopamine. It's just going to keep secreting dopamine. So it's that thrill that your body is, in order for you to get excited or be interested in guy, that dopamine is going to confuse you and having you thinking this is chemistry when it's not. It's just the pleasure of the encounter because your body can't handle the cortisol levels that rise when you're stressed out because something didn't work out. So your body is trying to compensate for that. But I don't think they can get past it without therapy. I really don't. This is not something that they can just one day wake up and be like, oh, I want the good guy. Because what they're going to do is mistreat the good guy. They're not going to know how to treat him because they're going to be looking for that passion. Although passion is important in a long-term relationship, they just don't know how to go about getting it, or they don't have the patience to let it build, because passion can build. I tell them passion can build, chemistry can build, attraction can build. You just have to take the time to get to know someone. And then also a lot of women don't know how to create intimacy. They don't know what true intimacy look like. They don't know what true intimacy is. They conflate intimacy, true intimacy with sex. And so a lot of women use sex to connect with a guy, like the 047 lady. She was using sex to connect. That's why she was having sex with him. When no, you can connect with a guy using your behavior, your traits, your personality, your temperament, build upon that, and then you'll see the attraction grow. I tell women all the time, I've seen it where women have, they've decided, okay, they've gone through the work, they've done the work, and now they find themselves attracted to another guy. You also have to keep in mind, hormones do play a huge part in this. There are studies out there. A lot of those women in Norway, Sweden, they're on birth control. Birth control is a huge culprit in changing how women see men. So they like the Jake Gyllenhaal's, the nicely clean cut guy, the guy who doesn't have that rugged masculinity or that rugged look going on. And a lot of the marriage minded, they don't like the men who have those typical masculine features or temperaments or personalities. So a lot of the marriage minded men do have a lot of that masculine energy flowing through them, and because of birth control, it's possibly turning them off. So they're overlooking and not able to. They might have the guys in their faces, but they get turned off because the guy is masculine. So masculinity is not going to be as agreeable as femininity. So he might have some standards that he stands on. He knows what he wants. He's going to tell her what he wants. She's going to get turned off because, wait a minute, I'm supposed to tell you what I want, and you're supposed to give me what I want. When no, it's supposed to be the masculine tells you what he wants, the feminine receives it and agrees or disagrees. But because they're so used to this feminist ideology and the way they've been raised and conditioned over time, they're raised to think that the man is only supposed to give them what they want and he's supposed to agree. So they like more agreeable men. But then you get in this relationships with the agreeable men and it feels like you're in a relationship with a girl. So if you're not a lesbian, you're going to be turned off. So they're just confused. Their minds, their wiring, the hormones just have them wanting something that biologically doesn't really work.
Interesting. Let me ask you this, Ms. Letitia Underwood. Again, understanding that you haven't yet read the paper itself, but you're very familiar with the basic issues. It's clear to me that many of these women they may have short-term sexual market value, but they don't have much long-term sexual market value. It's pretty obvious that they have difficulty getting the long-term relationships that they want. And even if they were to go for men on their level, they would still encounter difficulty. What do you agree or disagree?
I agree. Because unfortunately, they're showing that they don't know what it takes to create a long-term, steady, stable, healthy relationship. They don't know what it takes. The guy who wants marriage, he knows who he is. He knows what he wants. He knows what that's going to look like, how it's going to go. So when he's having these conversations with such women, they're like, he doing too much. That's too much. I don't trust him. He's trying to manipulate me. He's trying to control me. It's going to be all these excuses and justifications other than realizing you don't have the qualities of what it takes to be in a long-term, healthy, and secure relationship.
Finally, I don't want to hold you up too long. Finally, I'll just ask you this. Body count. That's another thing that's, gone from the manosphere into the wider social media space. A lot of people talking about it, trying to poo-poo it. The paper, again, Amanda Romero goes 0 for 7. There's a Norwegian TV show about an incel named Sigurd. And the name of the show is called Sigurd Can't Get Laid. It's a sitcom about this incel guy who goes from an incel to a moderately attractive guy who gets a girlfriend and then he finally has a child. So there's at one point in the series, I think it's like 3 or 4 seasons. At one point in the series, he finally gets a girlfriend. Her name is Josephine. So Sigurd and Josephine get together. She's pretty, but she has 15 Jake Gyllenhaals with large pleasure-inducing penises on her track record. 15. So she's kind of like 0 for 15 in the TV show. And Sigurd only has a notch count of 3. So he goes and cheats on her because he feels that as a former incel, he's been deprived of sexual experiences and she's had so many of them. And so he goes and treats. So there's a big storyline about that. But the bottom line was, for me, pretty clear. The ladies can be as upset as they want about body count. But the reality is, men, for evolutionary reasons, paternity, uncertainty, etc., don't want a woman that's 0 for 7 or 0 for 15. What do you make of that?
No, I agree. Like you said, evolutionary purposes, especially when it comes to the DNA of the offspring, right? Men will not can't tell if the offspring belongs to them until the baby is born and a DNA test is done. And then what do you do once the DNA test comes back negative? Women see that as no big deal, but for men, it's a pretty much very big deal. You don't want to be basically a cuckold. You don't want to be raising someone else's offspring. And then also, body count does tell you a lot about a woman's temperament, her personality, her ability to pair bond. A lot of men don't even have to ask if she has a lot of partners. It'll come out that she has a lot of partners because just the way that she engages men, usually avoidant women with an avoidant attachment style, with a disorganized attachment style, or anxious, preoccupied attachment style, more than likely will probably have a lot of partners.
Very, very interesting. Do you think that the body, because the argument nowadays is you'll never know what a woman's body count is because she could lie to you, so on, so on, so on, so on. I used to believe that back then in the 20th century. But in the 21st century, in the year 2025 moving forward, I'm not so sure that's true anymore. I don't think a woman can as easily conceal her body count as she could, say, circa 1995 or 1975 or 1955. She might have been a party girl back then, and maybe a few people knew about it, but if she was somewhat circumspect, nobody would be the wiser. I don't think that that's true anymore in 2025 with all the social media and etc. and all the various tools. You can look people up and find them on LinkedIn and this and that and Truth Finder and all this stuff. What do you make of that? Do you think that's true or not?
I think that's definitely true. I've been on Clubhouse in rooms where these men were finding photos that women didn't think they would find. Yes, they were in compromising positions. They were naked and all this other stuff. So I'm like, if they want to find it, they can find it. So I do agree that in the 21st century, that if women think that they can keep it under wraps, plus you never know, you might end up with a guy who is going to spill the tea, as the young kids say. I've seen that on Clubhouse where the guys were putting all kinds of things out on certain women. So it is pretty much, it's hard. But if the guy is not on social media, if he's not that familiar with women, the mindset of women, right? The mindset that leads to certain behaviors, then she might be able to get over on him. But yeah, it's not hard to hide that, especially with so many men talking, like so many men giving you the signs on how to recognize a woman who has a high body count.
Do you think, the argument has been that one reason why the women didn't like, I'm going to throw his name out here. One reason why the men did not like Derrick Jackson, for example, was because he was giving women the game about, these ne'er-do-well men. That was kind of like the argument. These guys are hating on him because he's giving away the game. Well, couldn't it be said in reverse that there are women that are upset about the manosphere because these guys are kind of hipping the guys the game about certain women? What do you make of that?
Yes, I do. I think that they, like I've said, like I told you before, they want you all to just shut up. Like, you're not supposed to be talking about them and telling this information and letting men be aware of the antics that the games that women play. Women have been taught since little girls how to play these games, right? It's something that's supposed to be between the aunties and the grandmas and your mama, and at the beauty shop, let me tell you how to get him. Let me tell you how to do this. Let me tell you how to do that. She's not supposed to know, girl. You're not supposed to be direct with that man. You're supposed to, this is how you get what you want. And so with the men, like with the red pill, when I first started listening, I was like, oh, I was like, oh, this is going to be messy. This is going to be trouble, because they are definitely spilling the tea as to how women move. If I keep saying spilling the tea, forgive me. I've been around my nieces. They use that word a lot. So, but yeah, they definitely are telling what they are doing.
Okay, so this is really great. I want to get back with you on this after you had a chance to sit down and read the paper in full. Again, it's over 20 pages in print, so with all the references. I mean, he cites a lot of names you're familiar with: David Buss, Todd Shackelford, Marty Hazelton, Sarah Hardy, Cindy Meston, William Costello. I mean, he mentions a lot of names you know about in the psychology field, in particular evolutionary psychology. You'll really like it. Really good stuff. Mads Larson is his name, M-A-D-S Larson. I've sent you the paper. You'll be able to look at it and check it out. Miss Letitia Underwood, I want to thank you so much for spending this evening with me. The first of many, and hoping and I hope. What do you think of the new studio here? What do you think?
I absolutely love it. It makes me want to get a studio together. I absolutely love it. I think you look great on camera. You look great on camera.
Jalen, Chaos, any guys y'all want to have any last words? Go right ahead.
Yeah, my final thoughts, man. I'm telling you right now, Obsidian. Feminism was created by the CI program by Gloria Steinem to pursue black women away from black men. That's my final thoughts, sir.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. And Chaos, any last words? Go right ahead.
Yes, my last words is like always, good show. Omen, I'll keep in touch on Facebook when I have you on my show very soon. Just give me some time. You get me? Like always.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we'll definitely be in touch. And we will talk. Hit me up. You know how to reach me. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Miss Letitia, thank you so much again. Very nice to see you on such short notice.
Appreciate you, Robinson. It is what it is. Chaos Rain, man. Are you up there, brother?
Yeah, I'm here, man. How you doing, brother? How you doing?
Hey, man, I want to ask you a question, man. And before you get started, do you feel like the Dr. Umar's baby mother is lying on him, calling him a deadbeat, or do you believe Dr. Umar that she poisoned the daughter's mind so that she would grow up to hate him? Which one you believe is true?
Damn. It's funny. Red, I covered this when first it got circulated 2 days ago, and now that I saw Dr. Umar's response, this is my thing with a lot of brothers. We are hear the narrative of these women, these ladies calling black men enduring deadbeat fathers, right? And this man is too well known throughout the media. We still haven't seen on school, but we're not going to that. But the last thing you want to do is, if your children now starting to come out, right? Regardless of the situation, right? The last thing you want to do is you want to be using your platform for any reason. You just let that be, let it go. And let me tell you why, Brett. Listen to me, Garrett. Most of these black chicks are going to still kiss the dirty soils of Dr. Umar regardless. You get me? Yeah. So you here doing these reaction response doesn't do you a service to people that already know that you ain't shit. Another thing, you have not proven shit. And now you make yourself look more bad than it is. It's like the same thing we had with Sarah Suicedi with the cell phone. When he responded and the phone was ringing while he's talking, it didn't look, it was not a good look. You get me?
Yeah,
and people still support it. So I'm thinking, brother, listen to me good. And I looked at her page. There's no serious thing of clout chase, because I see she already got almost 250,000 views on TikTok before she started talking about you. So there's no clout chasing when it comes to social media, brother. It is what it is. Once you make the attempt to start responding, and you already got enough shit in your table, right? You don't want to give more attention than it already has, which he has done, which was stupid on his end. Because now people gonna look at it and say, wait, you've been telling black men to get married, that you do things with kids, and now one of your oldest came out respond, and this is your reaction response. You can't tell shit to black men at this point. You get me? Because how you handle this, you didn't handle this properly. You might as well just kept your mouth shut and let people deal with it, what it is, and if we believe or not. But when you start responding, and the way how you respond, now it points a finger at you, say, well, damn, you still haven't got the school set up yet. Your daughter believes wherever her mom said that poisoned her and all that shit. If you look at the response, she says she didn't want nothing much, but she want to know the other kids. That means she doesn't know that she is connected to her other sister. That's bad. That's very bad. So now what's up? You look all a mess, bro. You can't tell people how to move, black men in general, how to move. And you're moving too loosely and you're getting validation by your response. That is a bad goddamn look. And the men that did the response, they're in the right to respond on your bitch ass. You get me? You should have kept it G and kept your fucking mouth shut. You get me? But it's like this, right? If people spread a rumor, right? You know how to handle it properly, if it's true or not, properly. This dude did not. And he says he's a psychologist. You should be better and more well understand this, the psychology. The way you just went and respond to that was stupid on your end. I'd rather sit there and say, all right, she probably trolling all that. But the way how you respond, I said, something not right here now. And I'm looking at her page. Now I'm looking and say, well, she's not getting clout because she look like she already got views before talking about your ass. So now we put two together. That's your daughter. But you see, he's not thinking quickly about this. You react. But that's I'm just gonna lay out the facts, bro. You can go ahead.
Well, my thing is I don't really know what her angle is because it's like, okay, well, why come out now?
I said that too.
Like if he's been a deadbeat, why come out now?
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? So that's why it looks like it might be some truth along with some clout chasing to me, because if you see, a lot of people don't like Dr. Umar, although a lot of people do. So if she exposed Dr. Umar, her followers are going to boost up even more. She's going to gain a lot of people who already didn't like Dr. Umar. A lot of her enemies a lot of Dr. Umar's enemies will subscribe to her to listen to her tear him down. So my thing is this: if he's been a deadbeat, why come out with it now?
Yeah, but Red, you got to understand, most children that's been raised by single mothers always think that their fathers are deadbeats. That's nothing new. For him to respond, it was bad on his end, because we already know that here's story. He deadbeat. Why you come respond? Now you respond, it makes you look more foolish and goofy as a man.
I don't know if I agree with that, because if he said,
think about it. If he
hold on real quick. If he said nothing at all, it would seem like he's guilty. I think he could respond, but how he responds is gonna really set the tone or really paint the picture of what people choose to believe or what they choose to not believe. Because if he would have said nothing at all, then they would be saying it's true.
But and I would agree with you with that. But here's the problem, Red. This nigga's not good at responding when there is allegations out there. For a man that is a so-called doctor in psychology, the way how you respond is going to give how you handle this. Do you think how you handle as a man, as educated as he is, and guiding and telling black people, especially black men, how you respond is going to be the determining factor. Say, okay, you handle that like a G. He didn't handle shit. The way how you respond was stupid. That's why I said, this is what I said personally, you shut the fuck up. Because when these things happen, you do not respond effectively enough so people don't have to really point the finger and say, all right, something really fishy. We already don't like it, but it's already revealed as time progresses. That's my thing why he shouldn't have said nothing. Because you're not good at, let me tell you something. Where's Dr. Umar Johnson's team? To be sit there and that guy he's on his own doing reckless, dumb shit. He can't be trusted on his own accords. That's why no man take him seriously. Think about this, Red. Did you know his Cash App got shut down?
Man, I didn't know if it was true or not, but I heard about it.
No, it's true. It's true. Chimera Information cover it, and I was looking, and he said on his own platform that was shut down, and I think he has another payment plan for people to support. Because he doesn't understand most of these digital apps, they need information to let you know, because man, you got to pay back some of that stuff, regardless you have some sort of LLC. They need proof that this money is going to somewhere, and he's not showing his end of the bar. So dude, they're gonna start shutting it down. So now all the money people give to him, that say what he's gonna do, the system's saying otherwise. It's not white man. The system saying otherwise, that you are taking money, you're not doing nothing what it's supposed to be doing. That's how it works. Where is Paper Trail going? That's why you see the people that support him, and then he has to go to other avenues to get his money, because this is all he has. And here's one more thing I'm gonna say, and I wish people came up and had more opinions on this. This man went and got his citizenship in Ghana. If you didn't hear this, you're gonna hear this now. Dr. Umar Johnson is planning his exit. Once the money really is done, you're not gonna see him here in America no more. I give him at best maybe another year or two, at best. If you don't see him here in America no more, he's gone to Africa. He took all y'all fucking money and took it go somewhere else because that was the whole end game. He was not gonna do nothing here in America. His goals, what he wants to accomplish, cannot be accomplished because he doesn't have no team. There's no structure. The people that try to come in this life to say, all right, we'll help you, but you might pay, or we'll help you, but you gotta do that. He don't want to take no advice because he wants to do this all by himself. There is no lone wolves in an environment where the enemy got you cornered. You need a team that is dependent on trust. He doesn't have that. He say that, but when we look at his moves, how he reacts and how he does things the last couple years, the last decade, it tells you you're by yourself.
Yeah.
You damn sure you can't teach nobody. You can't have a school because you don't have no structure in your own life as much as people that you could trust to get this shit accomplished. You're a lone wolf. Last thing any man should do, or any woman that's smart right now, if you're gonna keep supporting him, keep in mind that your money is going to him and him alone. He's not doing shit with the money. It don't take 10 fucking years to establish school. How I know? Because I've been watching this dude since 2010, up to when he started establishing he's going to create the school back and start the fund me in 2014, not 2010. I'm not sure where these niggas get their information that he started. No, he started in 2014 when he turned 40 years old in August. If I know, go back on YouTube, go back on all social media platforms when he started the GoFundMe initiative to start the school. But they don't know it's because they only see him doing his lectures the last 15 years, but have not really looked at the background of what from him getting his doctorate in 2012 to now 3 years later, or 4 years, actually 2 to 4 years, if my math's right, 2012. Oh, sorry, 2 years later, he said, now I'm ready to create a school for Black children. That's 11-year process. That started 11 years ago. And you know what happened after 2014? What happened the next year, Red? The Conscious Gripper came out and exposed him about.
Yeah.
And what happened after that? 10 years later, all the diamonds start to fall. It went downhill. And you know who saw at the end of all this? Dr. Umar Johnson.
Yeah, man. It's like we seen through this, man, a long time ago, man. You know, they say you black men just sound like black men who say nice things about black women. No, we been knew Dr. Umar was full of shit and wasn't living up to those expectations that black women had for him. We knew that he never wanted to get married. We knew that he likes dealing with multiple women. We seen through the hustle a long time ago. Same thing with Derek Jackson. It's like, but you can't tell him nothing. Black women got to self-destruct before they listen to a black man. They got to bump their head, ruin their credit, destroy their whole lives before they realize that a black man been telling them the truth the whole damn time. You know,
of course,
we've been told y'all that Dr. Umar Ifatunde was full of shit. We've been told you that Derek Jackson is full of shit. But you know what black women said in response? You niggas are just hating. You know what I'm saying?
The audacity said we hate him because he's a black man. No, you're hating because he caters to your bullshit.
Yeah, they love him. Yeah, they love him because he caters to their bullshit. Yeah,
the bullshit. That's why you still watch his stuff. That's why you sit there in my chat room, or 1% when I went live said, you know, that's not his daughter. I ignore it. You know why? Because I'm saying the dominoes are set. They keep crumbling as year progress. You still have not accomplished goal to establish a school system here in America. Something simple as basic with all the money. You still have to do that. Every year you say that excuse, say you need to do this, do that, that. And I said, we're going to push back. No, you're not having no school. The black people today in America are tired. Red. The only people that's not tired is black women. But black people will know. Once he's no longer in America and he's gone somewhere else, you'll know. We're going to see how smart you are if you're going to keep supporting him. Now he's no longer in America. We'll see how dumb you are.
Well, shit, bro. Well, I appreciate you for pulling up, bro. Appreciate you, Chaos Reign.
Thank you. Appreciate it, bro. Take care.
All right, for sure. Shout out to Chaos Reign for pulling up, man, with this one, man.
Yeah, go ahead, Chaos Reign.
Yes, how you doing? And pause this. Yes. You know, it's funny. I didn't know Femi was hanging around this channel until today. I just tuned into your channel, and I noticed, and she's gone now. my question I had to ask her. I said, I thought you still was in a relationship with your Memphis boyfriend, Femi. I'm confused. But anyway, you're still doing content and you're still trolling men. But it lets you know, say, Dr. Thunder, in regards to the reward and consequence aspect of the Western society and Western culture, if I mean, that yes, regardless of the outcomes of men, those are the two outcomes of men. You ladies today, you live in a world where it nourishes and caters to your chaos. And with the chaos, men at the end they had to restore order. But because the society is structured today, there is no order. So really truly, women like, I think her name is Chris Summers or all of them, they are living in their chaos. And no one will step in and restore the order. And the consequence that is you get what you get, the outcomes you get. That is, you might be at home alone with cats and dogs. You'll be calling dudes up, young dudes particularly, especially like Joy telling them. Now they downgrade and said dealing with dudes that's their age or older. They deal with dudes that's like barely touching 25. Regardless, they said 25. We all know it's less than that. Because that's the consequence. You pay now or you pay later. And it's kind of a shame for a woman at a certain age, especially up there, to be paying for date, but that's not a story. But like I said, these are the outcomes you will suffer. No in-betweens. So yes, if you could say that some men should check other men, that's beautiful, that's nice, and some men have. There's content creators that does this. I'm not naming them, but y'all know the content creators that's out there that's still doing it, that talks, but at the end of the day, the outcomes are still the same. Like Dr. Fonda said, the society corrects men, regardless of their outcomes, and they do it swiftly and very ruthlessly.
Yeah. So for instance, Take a Bite is the channel that was named Femi on this channel. But so one of her criticisms on one of her videos she made responding to my live stream that she got booted out of was, how come black men ain't saying nothing about black on black crime? These men killing other men and blah blah blah. How come
black on black violence? They talk that now. Yeah.
How come he ain't saying that? So first of all, that shows that you haven't listened to much of my content, because I do talk about that issue, and I have talked about that issue frequently. Probably everybody that's on the panel right now can probably recall a time when I have talked about that issue. And I don't dismiss or excuse it, but to try to act as if this issue of gang-affiliated young black men is the same level of an issue as the sort of rampant debaucherous hood behavior that we're seeing displayed by more critical mass, the majority, whatever you want to say. To act as if that those are the same thing, it's not the same. It's not the same for one reason. It's not the same is because there's a punishment for being gang affiliated, killing other folks, and that is you'll either get killed yourself or you're going to get locked up for murder. Okay, so there's a consequence for that. The second thing is that's not all black men. All black men are not running around gunning people down. It's a very small segment of the community that is involved in that, and these are disproportionately single mother raised, boys. Okay, so that's hogwash. The other issue, and she said she didn't like that I was talking about Lululemon in this twerking thing. Why wouldn't I talk about that? Why would I not address how that's an obvious violation in rebellion against the natural order? Who are the women that would be in a store thinking that this is some sort of act of protest, twerking in the store, creating this terrible image of black women, of black people in general, but of black women, and doubling down on the stereotypes that they believe that this former CEO had anyway. my communication about this was not just about twerking. It was about the entire package of suite of issues that were displayed in that. And so it's a treating what it is that I'm saying as being some sort of black and white, just as simple as me just basically watching videos of black women twerking and then criticize them twerking, and then here's another twerking video. Oh, see, look, they're still twerking. Oh, and here's another one. And see, look, they're still twerking. See, it's just completely and totally disingenuous. Toya, you came up. You were beckoned, and you came up. So I wanted to. I don't know if there's anything you want to weigh in on. It seems to me that you probably do. So anything you want to discuss?
I mean, I like the conversation you are having, and it's the irony isn't lost on me that you had someone who was so one-track minded that all she took from it was that you were talking about twerking, but that in itself highlights the fact that the call is not being picked up, because no one even hears the phone ringing. Instead of focusing on the larger picture, zooming out and seeing that this is merely a symptom of other things that have broken. A lot of times women will get upset at you calling them out for a specific behavior rather than picking up the phone and saying, let's talk about this. Let's widen the scope and see where this is actually stemming from, because everything has a root. And I think, unfortunately, because a lot of those checks and balances that are available and used for quote unquote checking men are not showcased when it comes to women, we're so far away from being able to call those women back. And so you get a Cree Summer, you get a Melissa Ford, you get a so on and so forth. I mean, this is just, you've got now women who are so brazen that they will call out virtuous women for simply being virtuous.
Yep.
That's not even seen as being something to be proud of. So in the face of something that you should be proud of, you've removed shame, and what do you have? Unruliness.
Yep. Thank you for that. Let's continue with the video, and anytime, unless somebody has something they want to say quickly right now.
Let me say this quickly before you continue. You know, I looked at her background. I noticed with Cree Summers, because you know they have a documentary of her. I didn't know she has a white father and a black mother. And now I'm thinking, saying, if you're a byproduct of mulattoism, you should be already covered. Why are you still on the streets on the carousel? And it lets you know the capacity of some of these women that talking about these mixed women, depending on the byproduct of a black mother and non-black man, are better. No, not. You're still, the daughter's doing the same thing. Nothing's changed. I just want people to notice that.
Yeah, and so technically she's not a mulatto, right? Because a mulatto is someone that, there's both parents are at least both parents are interracial, and so their offspring is interracial, but it would be generations of that. That's what mulatto is. Mulatto is not simply biracial.
Yeah. Her parents are probably 1/4 to 1/4 mixed race, and then their parents are roughly the same. I mean, she'd be in like that blue vein society type of thing.
So they said the mother, Dr. Fonda, is mixed and the father's white, because they said she was born in Canada. So,
okay,
I can speak to her in particular.
All right, well, let's move on. We're not going to go detail about her background.
Okay, let's see what we got.
Matter of fact, I'm blessing my man Chaos. He wants to get a piece of this. Chaos Raiders in here. Let me go to Pablo. We'll get him. Then we'll get Chaos. Then we'll swing back around to Miss Letitia and Mr. Diego, and we'll take it from there. Go ahead, Pablo. You on the air. Go right ahead.
Hey, Obsidian, man, great conversation. And I'd like to use another example that comes from Clubhouse. I don't know what it is about Clubhouse, but I think it has a cross section of Black Americans that allow you to kind of observe the general dynamics of what goes on culturally, in Black America. So I was in a room called the Cigar Lounge. I believe it was Wednesday night. And there was a young lady in there who was Creole. She was from Louisiana. She was a member of AKA, college graduate. She was a member of the Boule. For those of you who don't know, the Boule is a loose organization of upwardly mobile Black Americans, mostly college educated business leaders, people in various civic organizations, fraternities, sororities, and the like, who come together, and sometimes they have cotillions and ball and debutante balls, and you have Jack and Jill, you have Eastern Star, you have various other civic organizations, and people are various members of these organizations, and sometimes they come together under one umbrella. Some very successful and well-known Black leaders are members of the Boule. That's the short answer, right? So she was very feminine, very soft-spoken. She was very respectful. And I noticed there was one gentleman who continued to interrupt her. He was loud. He was also profane. He was disagreeable. And many of the men, well, I won't say many, but a group of us men were running to her defense, to the moderators. Hey, mute this charlatan. Allow her to speak. There still remained a group resistant to allowing her to speak. She never became profane. She never called anyone names. She was the epitome of graceful femininity in that room. Now, she didn't always agree with, quote, the men, but I could tell that there was a faction of our people who were uncomfortable with her. And it was then that I realized that there are also Black men who, I want to say, do not allow the space for our women to be feminine, who are unwilling to do the kinds of work that is necessary to cultivate that kind of environment. And it was then that I understood, I understand why we have so many unruly, undisciplined, foul-mouthed American Black women. There is an environment that is fostered that allows that. Not everybody wants Mumia Obsidian Ali to have a Black Manosphere conclave. They are not 100% solidly behind the idea. And you and I have experienced that in other rooms. There is a faction who believe that the men you might create may get away from them, may become, quote, too uppity for them. may all of a sudden be in another social and economic class that they do not have access to. And that is a problem.
Now that is interesting. I want to hear what the ladies think about that. But first, let me get Chaos Reign. Let me get him jump in here, and then we'll get his comment, and then we'll swing back around to the ladies because I really want to hear what you ladies had to say about what Pablo's had to say. Go ahead, Chaos. You on the air?
Let me ask you a question. I'm saying, was this on Facebook or IG? These thousand comments.
All the comments that I spoke about earlier, the over 91,000 likes and over 16,000 comments was on Randy Rosario's personal Instagram page. He's not hard to find. You just type it in your search engine, he brings it right up, and that is within the last few days.
Okay, excellent. I'll say this, brother, because you're a researcher. You know, IG has profiles of everybody, correct? So that means when you look at the comment, that means they have an icon, correct?
Yeah.
I would advise, and I should tell you this, because you're more older than me. You should check the caliber of who is the person posting these comments. Now, I'm not saying all of them, but you just click and observe their profile. That will explain everything of why a man or if a man or whoever will leave a comment in rage. And why I say this is because I could probably, in my opinion, now I could be exact, most of those that comment are one of two things. The ones that dress like boys, act like boys, or it could be the ones that just fantasize and don't want to hear from a woman that might look attractive, that saying that, you know, you should come back and save me. Is one or the other. But I, no doubt, believe. No, I would say I would know. The majority of those dudes that were leaving comments were the ones that either are doing what they should be doing or they're not, and they just sit there, put a comment because they feel that they're entitled to a woman like her. Personally, that's my conclusion when I see it, because let's be honest, if it's an IG, it's easy. Now I can click on your profile and see who's this. Even if they have private, I can look at their image page, their picture, or what they put on their IG, and I could probably explain enough of why this person will probably leave a comment.
That's a really good point. Matter of fact, Miss Raquel, if you're listening, I definitely want you to come on up because of an incident that happened on Clubhouse. And I think you know what I'm talking about. That goes right to Chaos Reign's point. But while we wait for her to come up, let me ask the ladies here, Miss Letitia, Miss Diego, what did you make of Pablo's remark about there being black men in the community who are in a very real sense kind of fostering this kind of chaotic, if you will, expression of black femininity, if you will. They're kind of fostering the profanity, being profane and being loud, and all the sexual suggestiveness of being loose and available and easy, and so on and so forth. What? Because the reason why I asked that is because there was a song. There was a number of songs actually, but there was a song, in one song in particular that always kind of stuck out at me. Rap song by an individual who is no longer with us. He's unfortunately deceased. He went by the name of Apache. And I want to say this would have been in the late 1990s. Pablo, help me out with it, but I think it was in the late 1990s, I believe. Apache had a song. I believe he was out. I want to say he's out of New York, but don't quote me on that. But in any event, Apache had a song. And excuse my expression, but the name of the song is what it is, called Gangsta Bitch.
Yeah.
Gangsta Bitch. And I'm going to play some of that for you right now before you ladies get a chance to answer. Simply Cat, if you want to join us, the link is in the chat room. Please post the link in the chat room. If anybody who sees it in the chat room there, please repost it again. Simply Cat and Raquel, they're also Miss Diego's compatriots in IRL on the over on Clubhouse. This song came out in the 1990s. I don't want to play a little bit of it. This is that right there. I mean, you can hear the whole thing. I guess you go to Shazam or Spotify. You get the idea. You can hold YouTube, wherever you're going to hear it. That's the gist of it. So Pablo is making the case that in addition to what we see expressed on Clubhouse and so on and so forth, I suggested that Miss Rosario kind of expresses that urban femininity, if you will. But he also went so far as to say that is being kind of fostered by a certain type of black male in the community. What do you ladies make of that?
I wholeheartedly agree. You have to understand, like, this all comes back to class again. And this is why I tried to have those conversations in my early days on Clubhouse, because being in both worlds, I see a clear difference. I grew up poor, not ashamed of it. I grew up poor. I married a man who grew up part of the middle class. So through my marriage, part of the middle class, raised our daughter in the middle class. There is a distinction between the mindsets and the behaviors of both. So when you're hearing in our favorite room, right? I got this a lot on the early days of me being there. Stop being weak. Fight back. I can't stand a weak woman. Can't stand. No, we're not here to protect you. You have power. You have a voice. Fight back, right? So it's like, do you maintain your femininity, your grace, and your dignity by not arguing with these irascible people, but and continue to be disrespected? Or do you assert yourself and take on the mantle of defending yourself and protecting yourself when you're in these conversations, right? Certain rooms I don't go in because of that. It's too much. But in this particular room, it's just a lot of disagreeableness and chaos with the disagreeableness, not outright blatant disrespect, but even still, you have the women in there who are trying to hold on and maintain their femininity, their dignity, and their grace. And the men are saying, nah, that makes you weak. Literally, that's what, nah, that makes you weak. So then because I've seen it, and even in myself, I had to become more assertive, dominate in certain instances in order to be heard. And that's something that I also experienced in my youth, in the environment. So I struggled with dating.
Would it be fair to say that was somewhat of a, as they say today, these days, triggering for you?
Not triggering. No, it wasn't triggering for me. It was just a recognition of, okay, this is why this is why I moved beyond the environment that I grew up in. I recognize I just didn't fit in, and that's okay. I'm okay with not fitting in. It didn't trigger me, but it hurt is what it did, because these were professional men. These were educated men. These were men who actually were born and raised in middle class. So I had a different expectation from them. But these are also men who are trying to hold on to their quote unquote blackness through lower socioeconomic class behaviors, what they think is blackness. So for me, once I did some introspection and resolved those feelings within myself, like, okay, if I'm going to choose to be in this environment, then I would have to find that balance of holding on to my femininity, my dignity, my grace, while also protecting myself in this space and moving accordingly so I can be heard at points when I want to be heard. So there's times where I have to literally, quote unquote, fight back in these conversations, which makes me highly uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't like conflict. I don't like arguing. But if I'm going to deal with Black people, and I hate saying that, but if I'm going to deal with Black people, then I have to understand that this is how I have to be. So Pablo is correct that the behavior that you're seeing is perpetrated by men. However, women also have a choice in the matter. Just because men are saying they like this, they want this behavior, well, do you have to become that? A lot of women become that because the men who are saying this, that's who they want. But then what do these men turn around and do? Turn around and disrespect them. They turn around and reject them because they end up not liking the behavior overall. So then now you're in this conundrum, this crux 22 space of, well, I don't like how he's treating me. So now let me try something different. But the behavior that you are now conditioned into is not conducive to someone who is not saying he wants a gangster bitch. So
So just so just to say that Pablo is absolutely correct, but women have a choice. So I don't want to put it all on the men.
Mr. Diego, hang on a second, Pablo. One moment. Give Mr. Diego a chance to get in here. Mr. Diego, you have anything you want to add to it?
So I don't listen to a lot of hip hop. So that song, my jaw hit the floor. I'm still like, I Googled it just so I can read the lyrics because I was really shocked that this is a song. Like this is something that's like out there.
It was a hit too. It was a hit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, wow. It was a big hit. Yeah.
I don't listen to a lot of hip hop, mainly because I do find it, and I know not all hip hop is negative, but I find majority of what is kind of promoted is negative, and I don't. Now, I absolutely agree with Pablo. I do believe that when it comes to, I'm on Clubhouse a lot, so I'm just using Clubhouse as an example. When it comes to certain conversations, you can clearly see where the men refuse to lend space for a woman to stay feminine, right? Like in order for her to kind of just not be combative or argumentative. It's like they will push and push and push and push, hoping to kind of get you out of that element. And I can only assume it's because they're used to seeing their mothers that way, right? I think a lot of mothers, when it comes to dealing with their sons, are very aggressive. They're very boisterous, and they're very, I'm going to use the word mean. And I feel like that is kind of where they've learned that this is how women are supposed to be, or this is what strength looks like in a woman. And I think it's very problematic because I do not think it is safe for women to interact with men like that in real life. The internet is its own jungle. You know, everyone feels more comfortable behind their phone or behind a keyboard. But interacting with men like that in person can be very dangerous for women. And I would never encourage a woman to do that. I don't even get into the practice. Now, I didn't grow up with any actual sisters, right? I grew up with I have a bunch of brothers. So even for me in my culture, I'm a little rough around the edges, right? Like my grandmother used to always say, you could soften up a little bit, like, but it was just me constantly being surrounded by boys. So, and it took me time to learn. I couldn't do everything my brothers did, even though they were the only ones there for me to look at. I had to find something else to do. I remember one time I told my brother, shut up in front of my grandmother. He said something to me, like, he's like, oh, you know, we're kids, we're playing. He probably said I looked ugly or something. And I said, shut up. And my grandmother looked at me and said, the next time you tell your brother to shut up, I'm going to let him beat you up. Right? And lo and behold, 2 days later, he said something to me. And both of them were there. And I told them both, shut your fat mouth. They chased me, they caught me, and they whooped my ass. And my grandmother did nothing to stop them. So it was her way of teaching me, I guess, in a quote unquote safe environment, there are consequences to how you deal with men. So it bothers me, like I know what Pablo's saying is real, but it bothers me that men are putting women in that position to be even more disagreeable, combative, and argumentative with men. Because if you're doing it online, I don't know if women are actually, okay, well, this is online and this is in real life, and I'm going to move differently when I'm, you know, in person and I reach conflict. And it is just not a safe space for women to be in, to be responding to men in that manner. And I think it's unfortunate that men push them there. I do think, though, I have to agree with Letitia. I can't 100% blame the men, because I do believe that when women feel that they have to match a man's energy, they're going to lose every single time. And I always say that it is a result, that is a woman who does not know how to navigate through patriarchy. She is not accustomed to navigating in a world where men are men. So I'll land it right there, but I just think that's very unfortunate that men are not aiding women, or at least giving them the space to deal with situations the way women should and not have to kind of be more masculine in order to deal with men.
Pablo, you want to respond? Go right ahead.
Yeah, and I wanted to add, it was only when a really feminine, soft-spoken woman was thrown into that environment that I was able to see it. Before, I was of the mind that, oh, well, this is just how these women are. They just like being like this. This is what they, this is what they're into, whatever. That they're not going to change, whatever. That was my general disposition until Wednesday. And, I had an epiphany. It took the strength of a really feminine woman who did not react when pushed to the wall. I have never seen a woman pushed to the wall like that, even on Clubhouse, until Wednesday night. And I juxtaposed her softness, kindness, femininity, language against the men in the room. And it was a gulf. It was a Grand Canyon of space. Right? So I agree with the ladies, but I just wanted to add that in order for me to see that, it had to be a really feminine and demure lady.
Very, very interesting. Let me get this Rumble Rant out of the way, and then we'll continue. Miss Raquel has joined us, and we'll pick up on where you left off, Pablo. Thank you, Buck Dodgers, for the $5 Rumble Rant.
I'd buy that for $1.
He says, I'll keep it a buck, old man. After how I was treated when I was younger, seeing these Keishas suffer from their mistakes kind of warms my heart. Hashtag Schadenfreude for the win. Yeah, Schadenfreude. That's another powerful emotion that I guess Schadenfreude will be up there with revenge, Miss Letitia. They're kind of like kissing cousins, I guess you could say, to some extent. But in any event, Miss Raquel is here now. Pablo, you make a really good point. Miss Diego, you make a really good point. So, how men act among each other, and for the women who want to navigate in that space as a man, one of the rules that you learn is that there are consequences. And you learn that as a boy. Miss Diego was relaying her experiences as a girl growing up. As a boy, you learn that. You talk smack, you might get smacked. Matter of fact, chances are very high that you will get smacked. You talk smack to another boy, and he's more likely to smack you. And you figure out real quick which boys you can talk smack to and which boys you can't. Or it would be inadvisable to do so. And so on. Miss Raquel, I want to get your thoughts on this topic with Randy Rosario and everything that you've heard so far. Anything you want to jump in on, feel free. You're on the air.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you just fine. How you doing? Welcome aboard.
Hi. So when I first heard this, I thought it was ludicrous. I think she does have a point where men, or even, everyone needs to get over what happened to them when they were in high school, right? Hence we're adults. But this notion that she thinks that men should, essentially what she's saying is men should save women from their bad choices. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. I think that's the main piece. I think that she conflated two different points. I think you can separate, and I agree with you, Raquel. I think you can separate, okay, things happen in the past, you have to, try to learn to move on, so on. So there's a case to be made for that. On the other hand, why does she get, she's in Detroit, so I'm going to use a analogy that's fitting for the city. 16 years ago, the president of the United States at the time, he was George W. Bush. He was coming toward the end of his 2 terms in office. And there was a major crisis, economic crisis looming on the horizon, Wall Street and Motown. And he engineered a major bailout of Wall Street bankers and Motown car makers. Okay. I was foursquare against it as a proud Black Republican. I was against it because of the message that it would send. It would send the message, and they even said it, that businesses of the scale of a GM, Ford, Chrysler, Goldman Sachs, Ernst & Young, etc., et al., were too big to fail. That if they made bad choices on the markets, made bad investments in terms of cars that didn't sell, so on and so forth, well, you don't have to worry about it, because here come Big Daddy President, and he gonna come and bail you out. I thought that was the wrong idea. As a proud Black Republican, I voted for George W. Bush. I did not agree with that. I was livid by his decision to bail out the banks, bail out Motown, because it sent the wrong signal. It violated the rule among men. If you make a bad decision, you got to deal with the consequences, which is what Miss Diego relayed when she was a little girl. And her grandmother said, look, you're going to be talking smack to your brother. He's going to have weapons free on you. Because that's how it is. If you would have been a little boy and you talk smack on your brother, it is what it is. And that's exactly what happened. And she learned the lesson that you can't do stuff without dealing with consequences. So what am I saying here? I agree with Miss Raquel with regard to Miss Randy Rosario in Motown. Look, we can have the discussion about brothers being in their feelings. It's been 25 years ago, whatever number it is. Okay, that's fair. But at the same time, my man, madam, you're not too big to fail. Okay? You're not too big to fail. That's how I would look at it. Chris, go right ahead. You want to hear?
You knew I was going to have something to say if you brought up Detroit. So I think actually the Detroit analogy and the bank analogy is actually a great example, but it all comes down, we talk about moral hazard, right? If people don't know what moral hazard is, look it up. But as much as you will say in this example, the car makers or the banks made these decisions, so they should fail, which I'm a capitalist, I 100% agree. What happens is in some cases, like in the bank's cases or automakers' cases, the government did things that they made the automakers do things that were anti-competitive for them, but they were doing it for XYZ reasons, such as, requiring banks to loan money to people who are not economically qualified, or with the wait
a minute, Chris. Did you use that word qualified?
Yes.
Because that's another word, and Miss Letitia, you would know about this. Well, Miss Diego and Miss Raquel, they would know about this as well. That's another word that really seems to tick off a lot of ladies. They hear that word qualified, that just sends them into a tizzy. But that's the reality. I mean, look, you got to qualify. It's the same for the men. The men have to qualify. A certain lady of a certain type, and so on and so forth. Whatever that is for you, you got to do that which puts you in contention to qualify for her hand, if you will. So it's not something that men are exempt from, but it only applies to women. That's not true. It applies to both. But I have noticed that a lot of the lovely ladies, if you will, they get really upset with just the very sound of that word qualify. That really upsets them. That right there.
I'm not going to get into that. We could have a whole discussion. I'm not going to have that discussion publicly because it's too hot button. So I'm not going to get into that. But whether you're qualified economically, I'm talking about like the banks, in the automakers and different things, or in the automakers case, you allowed countries from outside the United States to import vehicles with devalued currencies to undercut the market. That's problematic. So these are different things where, wait a second, you guys allowed this to happen. So let's move this to the relationship aspect. Yes, these women were preyed on in some cases, by older men. Granted, 100%. But this is where this breaks down. These guys were coming up to the high schools or to the colleges, wherever it was at. We're talking about the age of 16 to 25. After 25, you may do something stupid. That's just on you. I'm not going to have the discussion with you what your decision is. I'm saying 16 to 25, you make these decisions, man or woman, we can litigate this. That's what I'm doing. When you're talking about litigating this, okay, you're 17 years old and the 21-year-old guy who lives around the corner from the high school pulls up in his Mustang after school and you jump in. Okay, that's what you're doing. Got it. Not a good idea, but the teachers told you wasn't a good idea. Your parents told you wasn't. Everyone told you this was not. There was 10 people around you, and eight of them told you this was a bad idea. The outcome was not what you expected. Okay, so should I say you should be out in the cold? No, but you don't get to, again, your poor decision making because someone does not want to quote unquote give you a mulligan does not mean you get to character assassinate the people who do not want to give it to you. And that's where the problem is. Everybody makes mistakes, okay? But to then engage in character assassination of the people who you're asking grace from is the problem. That is where it starts and ends. If you stop the character assassination, I think guys would be a lot more willing to talk about this because everyone knows the environment that we grew up in. I mean, I didn't even grow up in the inner city like that, but I was in Black culture. I understand the challenges. I would be sensitive to what somebody said, but you can't character assassinate me at the same time.
Interesting. Let me get Roy Nell, and then I'm gonna throw a curveball in here. Roy Nell, you're on the air. Obsidian Radio. Go right ahead. Keep those rumble rants and cash apps rolling in, brothers. If you like the show, if you like this type of content, you got to do your part. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Feel free to spread the content any way you want to clip it up. Spread it on your social media platforms. Feel free. Hit that rumble rant. Hit that cash app. $ Obsidian Radio. Roy Nell, you're on the air. Go right ahead. Roy Nell, you're on the air. Okay, he's trying to.
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
All right.
Somebody wanted to say something. Was that Mr. Diego?
It was.
Go right ahead.
I think the main issue, like when I read some of the comments in regards to what Ms. Rosario said, it's the undertone of entitlement. I think that's what men are most troubled by. Granted, you made decisions, it may not have worked out for you, but it is this idea that I don't have to give grace. I made a mistake. It is what it is. You should just accept me for who I am. How dare you question my past? How dare you question my decision making? I think it's the level of entitlement that is truly troublesome, at least to me, when I listen to what she's saying. Is there some bitterness? Probably. Could they have been victims, the women? Possibly. But it's this idea of, well, I am entitled to be accepted anyway. Who are you to judge me or for the decisions that I've made? I should be able to do what I want, live as I choose to. And when I'm good and ready to change, you should just accept me for who I am, because that is what I'm entitled to as a woman. And I think that's the bothersome undertone that I get from this video overall.
Gentlemen, any gentlemen here want to jump in on that?
I want to say something and ask you a point question, because you talk about the car motor business and how the government bailed them out like 16, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
My question to Obsidian, do you think that the automotive business here in America made a compromise deal with the government and gave them some little money here to not go under? That's why
Absolutely. And I'm foursquare against it. As a proud Black Republican, it goes against all the rules and norms of business and commerce in the free market system. If you make, that is the way that the free market system is regulated. Those who make bad decisions is a lot like evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Those who adapt, talking about living organisms, people, monkeys, whatever. Living organisms adapt to the environment, adapt to the situation, and they get to pass on their genes to the next generation. Those who fail to adapt to the environment, fail to adapt to the situation, they are not our ancestors. It's the same thing in business. Those who adapt to the changing circumstance, they get to go on to become a legacy. Those who do not, they are failed businesses. So that's where I'm at with it. I was foursquare against Motown getting any help. I was foursquare against Wall Street getting any help, because you are subverting the natural process. If you make a bad decision, you should pay the consequence. And if that means you go out of business, it is what it is. Similarly, in the mating market, with regard to Randy Rosario and the point that Mr. Diego made, look, we're not going to bail you out. You made a decision to get with fill in the blank guy and don't mess around and have children come out of it. Well, I mean, hey, look, it is what it is. You made your decision. Now you got to live with it. And part of that living with the decision is now you don't get to get the best of all better off men in Black American society. It don't work like that. So I'm consistent on both sides of the debate. That is where I'm coming from. Let me ask now, Miss Raquel, this brings in you because Miss Raquel, you had a situation that had something to do with you over on Clubhouse. I'm not going to mention any specifics. I'm not going to mention any names. But it goes right to what I'm talking about here. Miss Diego said that as a girl growing up, she came at her brother sideways, and her nana said, look, you do that again, and it's going to be weapons free. I'm not going to intervene. And Diego, as many children are wont to do, she did it again, and this time she was met by weapons free. And the lesson there was, in man world, if you say something or if you do something, there's going to be consequences. And men don't get to say, well, somebody bail me out. You got to deal with it. Now, a situation went on, Miss Raquel, on Clubhouse that goes right to this point. I'm not going to mention any names. A friendly wager was made between men, Black men. A friendly wager. And one of the individuals making the wager was talking big smack. It's, that ain't no money. I'll do double that. It's okay. Double the amount. Okay. Come to find out, he lost the wager, and it was time for him to ante up. And what did he do? He welched on it. And there was a big row, as they say in the UK. There was a big row over it, big argument. And finally, Miss Raquel, you came in, a straight up Athena move. You came and said, listen, I'll tell you what is the dollar amount here again? And the dollar amount was disclosed. And you said, you know what? I'll cover it right now just to squash the whole thing. I was listening at the time, Miss Raquel. I said, no, wait a minute, hold it. Nobody here has a problem with what this woman is about to do. She's about to pay another man's debt who was talking all kind of smack before the bet went down, and now the bet come due. He ain't gonna do it, and she gonna cover it and pay for it. What kind of message does that send to all the ladies here? What does that say?
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Lumia, because I was actually watching your very entertaining feed on the Derek Jackson crashing out, and I loved it. I found it very entertaining. So I think there's something that you have to remember about me. I'm a person of community. Community is very important to me. So when I came in, I had no idea what was going on. You know how the person who made the wager is, and his personality is big, and I have, again, came in, no idea what's going on, but I saw that he was irritated. And then when I kind of was briefed on the story, and remember, I didn't know anything about this wager. I wasn't in any of those rooms because those rooms tend to be a little too chaotic for me. I can maybe stomach 5-10 minutes of it, and then I leave. So I wasn't privy to anything that happened. So when I hear that he's irate, this is someone that I am in community with. The other person that welched on the bet, he comes around, very respectful. So in my mind, I was raised to make sure that the men of your community are good. I underestimated how it would look like. I was just focused on community and making sure that I take care of the men that I'm in community with. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, but here's the thing. It had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with the men in question. And it goes back to what Miss Diego said as a girl and an incident, with her grandmother and her brother. In man world, there are consequences for your behavior. You got to be we learn this, nobody sits down and says, no, little Johnny, you got to be, it's not like that. It's through learning, through doing. You learn as a boy that you say certain things, you do certain things, there's going to be consequences. You might get your ass beat. You know what I mean? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not just with regard to parents, but your friends. You learn I would argue you learn a whole lot more from your friend group than you do your parents in many cases. This is what I meant when that whole incident went down on Clubhouse the other day, early this week. It reminded me of a scene out of The Wire, and I just want to play it for everybody.
You too good? Yeah. We got y'all up front. Let's go P-Square.
Okay.
You look healthy. For a man who was gut shot. You reached out to a third party who engaged me in the purpose of holding your towers. That third person's word was your word, as he represented you. That's right. And I ran those East Baltimore gentlemen off. I held up my end of the agreement, at least for as long as I was physically able. You did? Your man then set up a meet at Butchie's Bar. Your man told Omar Little that I was responsible for the torture of a young boy who was close to Mr. Little's heart. Your man, in effect, sought to have me hit. Omar told you that and you believe that, Mom? He doesn't strike me as a man who would tell stories, even at the point of dying. Shit. That Proposition Joe package. The inner workings of your organization don't concern me. If there's a way, if my man, if he made a mistake here, then I'm willing to pay the cost. How can we fix it? You want money? Money? Yeah, this is business. Business is where you are now. But what got you here is your word and your reputation. With that alone, you've still got an open line to New York. Without it, you're done.
See, Miss Raquel, see what happened on Clubhouse. Again, we're not going to use any names. What happened on Clubhouse, yes, the money was at issue, and that's true. But what was even at bigger issue, and it's not your fault at all, what's at bigger issue is the one brother in question. His word and reputation was on the line in that moment. That is what's at issue. Where you came into it was, and again, it's not your fault. Letting a woman settle your debts, that's just not cool. No man is going to respect you after that. Not you personally. I'm talking about that brother. No man is going to respect you after that. None. And my understanding is he's been getting dragged up one side of the street and down the other by brothers over on Clubhouse. But just about pretty much at this point, he's persona non grata, because every room he go to, no matter what the topic, they go back to, yo, man, you let a woman pay your debt, man. What's up with that?
And he has to live with that. There is nothing I can do to change that. I don't know him. That's something he has to live with. But I know that I stood on my integrity, I stood on my principle, and I believe community is important. And at that time, I felt it was my business because I saw two men who, well, one man I'm in community more than the other, the one that welched on the bet. He comes around, he's respectful. I thought I was settling an agreement between two friends, two brothers, what have you. But the person that welched on the bet, he has to live with that. There's nothing I can do about it.
Right. Well, here's the thing. With all due respect, Ms. Raquel, women have to stay out of stuff that goes down between men. However it works itself out, it just works itself out. However it goes. Your only crime, quote unquote, was attempting to squash a beef that, and I understand the impulse, I get it, but that was for men. If you just like with that scene on The Wire there, business is where you are now, but what got you here is your name and your reputation. With that alone, you can still call on favors. Without it, you're done. You think that brother on Clubhouse is going to have any brother going willingly go in on him with anything? You believe that?
No, and I absolutely know that I miscalculated that. It was just like a heart impulse, like, oh man, I don't want to see them fighting. So I stepped in to see if there was like an amicable way to resolve it. And then a man, reimbursed me for that because he didn't feel good about it. So people were just standing on integrity, if you remember.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I miscalculated that. I'm not perfect.
Yeah, not your fault. It's not your fault. All I'm simply saying is that situation which you were involved in only goes to reinforce the point that Diego was making with her grandmother when she was a little girl. In man world, you do stuff, you say stuff, there are consequences that you'll have to pay for that. And so bringing it round robin back to Randy Rosario, going back to Diego's point about entitlement. Yeah, I did thus and so. So what? You still wanted me anyway, so just get over it. No. There are certain things you can do as a woman that you can't come back from as a woman. And one of those things, and they did mention it in the clip, one of those things is, it's going to sound bad, having babies by ain't shit men. And that's the reason why, and I can weave him in here, that's the main issue with a lot of brothers and Russell Wilson. 10 years on, the issue that many brothers have with him regarding Ciara is that she had a baby by what they consider to be an ain't shit dude, and he gave her a pass. Well, I'm inclined to understand that argument. Because in life, as a man, there's some things you can't come back from. That brother on Clubhouse who welched on that bet, and then you came behind him to pay the bet, oh man, he's toast. He's done.
You know what, Obsidian? The honorable thing would have been for him to decline her offer to pay.
Correct.
He would have done better to take an ass whipping for not paying. And allow me to use an analogy. In all three major professional sports in this country, MLB, NFL, and NBA, when the players run afoul of the rules and get fined, third parties cannot come in and pay their fine. It is taken directly out of their paychecks.
Yeah.
I do want to say, Mumia, that was very much a learning moment for me. You guys did teach me something. I won't do it again because very different cultures. But yeah, I'll let men be men. So thank you for pointing that out. That was something that was very miscalculated.
Yeah, no worries on your part. It is on his part, the brother in question. He's pretty much made himself persona non grata, at least as far as Clubhouse is concerned. I'm at the point where if he's in that room, I really don't want, because I don't want anybody making these, look, especially for women. This is just how it is. I'm not judging it. I'll put it this way. If a man is known to be something of a hound dog, if you will, and you as a man are really good friends with him, you're not known to be a hound dog, but he is. Women are going to say, well, what's up with him? We get he's a hound dog, but what's up with this guy? Why is he hanging with this guy? Is he a hound dog too, and we just don't know it? Is he giving his tacit approval to it, even if he's not? Could he be like living vicariously through? See, this is how women think. You know, they call it guilt by association. See, I don't want to be around somebody who is a known deadbeat. Because what does that say about me?
Yeah, very much understood. And I spoke to my husband about it because everyone was, she's married. Oh my God. And he wasn't mad. He thought what I did was very me, my heart, why he married me. But he said, I'd rather you not have intervened. That's something that two men should figure out. He said he was going to do something and he didn't do it. But he said, he told me, I know who you are and I know that's your heart. So I can't be mad for who you are.
Yeah. Anybody want to jump in? Feel free, and we can keep the conversation moving. Anybody want to jump in? Feel free. Weapons free. Weapons free.
Well, one thing I do want to say, Obsidian, in regards to the paying off the debts, I was surprised he didn't play the other scene when the guy talked to Mozon, that made him came to conclusion, that little clip, because that was powerful enough. That other scene when he came in and told the stories. And let you know, saying, how was Mozon able to read this man out and know that he set him up? Well, one thing people don't understand, the man reads books, but not just any books, he reads a variety of books. And how much you want to bet he read about the psychology of people?
That's possible. It's also very possible that he's very well versed in the game, as they call it, the code of the street, which is again a male endeavor. There's rule, there's honor among thieves. This is what's known in the world of The Wire as the Sunday truce. No business can be conducted during Sunday. Just like in the world of John Wick, no business can be conducted on Hotel Continental grounds. So that's how it goes. And anyone that violates, you have to pay the cost, which means death. Basically, you get killed if you violate. So so that I agree with Miss Diego. The entitlement piece behind it is really powerful. I mean, you can do what you want to do, but you got to pay the cost.
And so in this lies where class distinction comes in, but we don't want to talk about, right? A lot of the things that are being discussed in these conversations deals with people not understanding rules of engagement when they have quote unquote leveled up, right? So people's language tells you a lot about themselves. They're giving away every day of where the class that they belong to, because they don't either understand the rules of engagement, the protocols, the policies, or they just don't care. And they don't care because they weren't raised up under it. So now you've gotten your profession, your career, your money, living in a different environment, but you're not adhering to the rules, the protocol of that environment. And I think this is where a lot of Black people get it wrong, is that they want to continue the behaviors, the actions, and the mindset of the socioeconomic class that they were born and raised into.
Now, why I got you there, Miss Letitia, you said something in the chat room that I want to highlight here. You said men focused on another man's choice is weird to me. This is in relation to what I said regarding Russell Wilson, tacking back to the point that Mr. Diego made about the entitlement that she perceived in Randy Rosario's statement. So being focused on another man's choice, that's not how I read it, the Russell Wilson situation. The way I read it was more in alignment with what Mr. Diego said. The idea of, or excuse me, not Mr. Diego, Chris, the idea of getting a mulligan.
I want to interject real quick.
Yeah.
When we talk about the Russell Wilson situation, we do not have an honest discussion about Russell's side of the baggage he brought into the relationship.
Okay,
he brought baggage.
What do you bring into it that you feel is not being adequately covered?
First thing, Russell Wilson was divorced, which that wasn't, he didn't have children from that marriage. He was in a long-term relationship where he fairly early on, and due to things that he's alluded to that he did within the marriage, that caused it to dissolve. So he was not clean going to the situation. But I think that sometimes,
I mean, if we're going to talk
Yeah, I
about
disagree with that.
for most people, and maybe people here on the panel may disagree, but for most people, baggage means kids, to be brutally frank. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but that's what it means to the minds of most men and some women. Kids represents baggage. So if you were married, okay, but no children resulted and you got out of it, and most people wouldn't really consider that as a big deal, would they? Am I wrong about that?
I would say if you're
no, I'm saying you're right. You're right, and I'm gonna explain why. Russell Wilson came in a marriage that he felt was not satisfied, and some part that she did that he had to pull the plug. And God forbid that he had no kids with her, because from what I'm hearing, it wasn't really going well when he got married to a woman. So he cut ties, paid the thing, kept pushing. He has no baggage. Nothing wrong with Russell. He made an executive decision, like most men. Now, in regards to Ciara, she came in this with kids, and he had to make a deal and tell us that for this to work, you're going to have to play on my ball. And what Ciara did, she reneged. She had to comply. That's why she got the ring.
I agree.
I don't.
I agree with Chris.
Russell came into, it wasn't like he had a 10, 12, 15, 20-year marriage and things didn't work out. This was a woman he was with for a long period of time. They were married. He hit the bank. He broke the bank. And then all of a sudden, he basically traded her in for a starlet. That's what he did.
No, that's not.
Chris.
How long was he divorced before he even met Ciara?
They were probably divorced a couple years. He's probably been divorced basically a couple years. But
yeah, so that doesn't mean he traded his first wife in for Ciara. I agree with you at the point that he's coming in with baggage, because a failed relationship. Yes, you're coming in with a failed relationship. You're coming in with a failed marriage, and it would be considered baggage because you have not dealt with it. There's a mindset and behaviors that you could possibly bring into your new relationship. But to my point that Mamiya is trying to address, when I said men focus on another man's choice, is weird to me. Other men getting mad because he chose to give a quote unquote baby mama who had a baby by a derelict man a shot is odd to me, because this is a man who made a choice for himself and he got what he wanted. I don't think that Ciara was up there manipulating him, walk over. If they think that he is some poor little dude who is being manipulated, then they're not reading the situation, because he said and she said that he established that they will not be having sex until they're married. He established that he wasn't going to be introduced to her child until a certain point when they're dating, and he was going to determine when that was going to happen. So he was leading throughout that relationship. So them looking at it and thinking, poor little Russell Wilson, he was not that guy, but we don't know that for sure if he was not that guy. He was not that guy for Black women, so he's being manipulated by this woman who was with Future, and because she was with Future, then that's really the type of guy she wants. I just find that odd that they're focused on his decision and the decision that he's happy with.
So the reason why guys have the issue, and look, to me, what Russell and Ciara did, to me, it was ruthlessly pragmatic how they paired this up. To me, it makes 100% sense what happened. Russell Wilson decided he wanted to come back into Black America, and Ciara, what other Black women were on the table in that stratosphere at that time? And that was his view. Look, I'm telling you, what he probably looked at was he saw that there was issues within his professional environment with him. Once he exited the relationship, he knew that if he got with another white woman, that he was going to have problems professionally, and then he was going to ultimately isolate himself from Black America.
I disagree with that, because all these other athletes don't seem to care.
But you don't.
I don't. Hold on.
Okay.
I disagree with that, because he just doesn't strike me as a type that's gonna care what others really think about him all like that. I don't think he got with Sierra just to be accepted by the black community when it's not.
You missed it. You're missing
Okay,
it. You're missing it.
sir. I please let me finish my point.
Okay.
This was just simply a man who met a beautiful woman, a talented woman, a woman that he probably considered on his level, beautiful, sweet, energy is good, and he fell in love with her. Why does there have to be another scenario? Why does there have to be all this added extra stuff that we don't know actually happened, but we're trying to paint a scenario as if this did happen?
Because they would have when they were dating, and they would have functions at their private suite at the games, they would have people sign NDAs about stuff. So I'm just gonna say, if you look into Russell Wilson's background, I think his dad was a college president or something like that. He's a part of the quote unquote talent, like his family is from those higher end circles. What he didn't want to have, he didn't want to be in a situation of he would be a man without a country, and he understood that he had to ultimately, when he had his quote unquote redo, he knew that he was going to have, he wanted to be in Black America, and he knew that that was going to be difficult to do within not being married to a Black woman. He could have all those feelings about Sierra. Those are all very valid. The thing is, you have to realize that when people are getting married at this level, they are not, or even in the upper middle class level, this is people who have horses and cows are marrying people with farms and storefronts. She had something. Look, he can go get any woman if he wanted to. Sierra did not. Sierra gave him validity to something, just like Barack did with Michelle, or Will Smith did with Jada Pinkett.
So,
there's reasons why these men.
Sierra gave him validity amongst the lower socioeconomic class Blacks. That's the validity he wanted.
No.
Hold on, because him marrying a woman with a child by a man like Future, I'm sorry, people in the upper socioeconomic classes aren't going to be saying, "Well done, Future. You married a Black." Not just any. When it comes to those type of decisions, pedigree is important. So not any Black woman is going to do. The only Black people that he can get in line with would be the people who applaud her behaviors. That would be people who either came from the lower socioeconomic classes or still in the lower socioeconomic classes. But you're saying his father was a university president, so more than likely he was raised upper middle class. So the decision would be to get a woman from his socioeconomic class, a woman who shared similar pedigree and background, to be palatable to those group of Black people. You don't go and get a Sierra and think that those people are going to open their doors and be like, "Well done, now you're accepted." No, if he'd have got an actual Michelle Obama, because let's just face it, Sierra and Michelle are worlds apart. Nothing against Sierra, but if he'd have got him a Michelle Obama, then I can see your point. I just think this is really purely a guy who was married to a white woman. It didn't work out for whatever reason. Russell strikes me as a type of guy who is arrogant and egotistical. Nothing wrong with that, but arrogant and egotistical men don't make decisions based off of how people feel about them. They make decisions based off what's right for them. And we can tell that he's that way because when the conversation about Future paying child support, he told his wife, "We don't need his little coins anyway." Like, he wasn't trying to invalidate what his wife felt about the situation. He was trying to make it very clear he didn't care about the man. He didn't care about the man's money. He was going to do what he wanted. He didn't care how the man felt about little Future calling him daddy or anything. He was going to do what he wanted to do. So,
that the reason why he didn't want Future's money, okay, is because of, and my dad told me this when I was a kid. He told me, if you marry or you get involved with a woman who has a child, you do not take any money from that man because now he's already injected into your household because his kid's there. Taking his money makes it even more involved. So what he said, I can't take your kid away, but I'm not going to take your money because now that draws a hard line of where your responsibility ends and where my responsibility begins. That's what that was about.
Right. I get that. I get what you're saying, but there's tone, and his tone was, I don't care about this man. I don't care about what he has going on. I respect that that's the boy's father, but I'm the pappy now. And you can clearly see in how he operates with this boy in the pictures and everything. Like, he's not thinking about, like, this is the problem where people make up these scenarios and these stories about people that they really don't know. What you see is what you see, but you really don't know what's going on. But you can get a sense as to mindset through their actions, behaviors, and language.
Well,
So-
let me say this. Well, hang on a second. Let me say this because, or let me ask rather. So, and now we're on this, this is like one of the great, you want to get the cookout started, mention Russell Wilson and Sierra, right, in Black America. So here we are. So let me ask you this, Ms. Letitia. We both agreed that there is an element of manipulation with regard to Randy Rosario. We could debate to what degree, but there's clearly a manipulative ploy at work here, based on what we've read by her, based on all that. Social media is about manipulation to a large degree. So it's not necessarily her per se, but she's involved in it. Okay. Couldn't we say the same thing about Russell Wilson, though? I mean, he has made appearances. I'm talking about media appearances, GQ and other places, talking about his life with Sierra, the children. Could that too be a form of manipulation?
To what regard? To get under their skin?
No, I mean to present a particular type of image.
Yeah, that's what he's doing.
What image okay. So you're saying it could be manipulation that he is trying to present an image of a family man, stand-up family guy?
There's that. Would that not be advantageous to his career as a football player?
No.
Yes. Oh, are you kidding?
Right. Hold on. I'm not. I'm trying to see how it would be advantageous because you have. I mean, the. Let's just face it. The identity of Black professional athletes is not positive. They don't look at these Black athletes as stand-up, wholesome family guys. They look at these guys. Oh, you're popping out babies. We expect that, right?
So
That's how the white establishment, the powers that be, that's how they're viewing these men. So who is he trying to look upstanding to?
Well, I think you just answered your own question. I think you just answered your own question.
Who cuts the check for these endorsements?
There you go.
He's not looking upstanding to the white powers to be because I don't think they care. Right?
Yes, they do. Oh, you care.
No, they don't. They don't care because if they cared, they would make sure that all of these athletes weren't out here popping out babies everywhere. They would make sure that they're family men and they're wholesome. Like you would think that they make sure that the NFL was about family values.
No.
Okay. All right. Hang on. I'm going to get Chris and then Pablo wanted to say something. Go ahead, Chris.
For Russell Wilson, he's a quarterback. He was on a quarterback at the time for a top team in the NFL. To make himself more marketable, okay, he was crafting the image. Is that who he is at his core? Maybe, maybe not. But his public image, he's been very careful about. He makes sure anywhere he's been. This has actually been a problem in NFL locker rooms. A lot of NFL players consider he's too cozy with management. And in Seattle, it caused divides in the locker room because they felt like when he made mistakes on the field, like when he throws an interception on the goal line during the Super Bowl, he was not held accountable for that. And then when he went to Denver, what was one of the complaints that was about him in Denver? He negotiated. He wanted to have his own office, and he would come in and do things. That all sounds very professional and everything. But again, it puts this thing up. You have the team, you have him, and then you have management. And what happens is the team was viewing that he was cozying up with management, trying to placate them. And now you see it just came out in the last hour. He is leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers because he does not get along with some of the coaches. Yeah, his play was shaky too, but there's a thing with Russell Wilson that's undercurrent. There's a constant through line in his career about him being a company man and all the things he does, and it irritates his teammates, and ultimately the front office around him, because he cozy ups to owners or to the owners and everything. And then what happens is they feel like they cannot handle him or manage him appropriately because he has this very good public image. And people are like, oh, why are we picking on Russell? Russell's a good guy. Meanwhile, Russell is doing things to craft his image and do things in the locker room to make this aura of protection around him. This is a thing. This is a real thing.
Okay. So he's arrogant, like I said, and egotistical. I'm still trying to understand how him marrying Sierra helps with his image. It's not it's not like he married President Obama's daughter, or heck, even if he could, maybe like Trump's daughter or something.
Okay, let me help you.
That right there, I can see how it'd be palatable to white people.
Okay.
Him marrying a black girl who is a pop princess who had a child with a quote unquote thug type Negro. I'm not going to use the other word that people use colloquially.
Thug type Negro.
Yes. I'm trying to figure out how wealthy white owners care, how that makes him, like, how does that help him with his image to them?
All right, I'm gonna help you with that. Are you ready? Have you ever heard of a Q score?
Possibly.
A Q score is a measuring tool that ad agencies use to determine a celebrity, actor, actress, musician, athlete, to measure their popularity and notoriety in the public sphere. When these celebrities and athletes and entertainers, when they come together, guess what happens? Each gets a bump in their Q score. Now, I'm gonna use the NBA as my first example. In the last 40 or 30 years, 30 to 40 years, the biggest stars of the NBA in terms of endorsements, Q score, and all of that were all married. Michael Jordan, no side baby mamas. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Steph Curry. The reason that advertisers want married men is because they feel more comfortable with those men endorsing their product because it gives a family image. So now when you add that to what I said before about the Q score, meaning you raise your Q score by being with another notable and famous person, now you have the double whammy. And that's what the advertisers and the television networks, that's what they want. So what he was doing by marrying Sierra was setting himself up for his career after football by raising his Q.
So I understand what you're saying about being married, because it happens in corporate America as well. It's not about the society at large, but it is about raising your status within that corporate environment. However, his popularity didn't rise overall. Like he took a great hit in popularity, especially with black men, by marrying her. I don't think
but he added millions of black women
just
don't
I
even watch
allowed you all to finish, please. Thank you. So his popularity may have risen with black women who align them, who are similar to Sierra. They see the stuff with Sierra. But let's look at what happened with what's his name back with the Cowboys and Jessica Simpson, Tony Romo. the overall consensus with that relationship in the locker room and outside of the locker room, that was a horrible, horrible relationship. So did he get with her because he was trying to make white people fall in love with him more? Was Travis Kelce trying to get with Taylor Swift to make white people love him even more? Why is it that when black people do normal things, there's always something behind it? There's always something going on.
I'm not saying it was
So I agree with you
something
about marriage, but I'm trying to see how a pop princess, and she's not like Sierra's. She's a singer, but Sierra's not like Beyonce level, okay, where she's well known in so many different circles and so worldwide, right? And she had a baby again with a thug Negro, and the popularity isn't about popularity with black people. The popularity has to be amongst white. You have to be a crossover if you're black. So I'm trying to figure out how, with her background, him trying to be manipulative and trying to marry her specifically will lead to a rise in his population amongst white people. I just don't see it.
That's not my contention. That he said, "Oh, I'm going to go and marry Sierra and get this and get that." No. This is a matter of fact, after effect. It's not. I'm not saying it was premeditated. Okay. What I'm saying is it's an after effect.
So then
and these guys know
that
that
argument.
To present the family image helps them down the road, right? It keeps them out of the streets. It keeps them out of the clubs. It for some guys, they know this, and they want to have that life because it helps them to become more successful on and off the field.
Right, I understand that.
Now, something said about
the same
I let
thing.
you talk. I didn't interrupt you.
Okay, you're cutting. Hold on, you're cutting out. I don't know if it's on me.
I didn't interrupt you. Remember.
Okay, what I'm saying is you're cutting out. So to me, it sounds like you're stopping. So I'm just apologizing for the interruption.
Okay, bear with me. I'll let you know when I'm finished. But right now, I'm still talking. Something else was mentioned about Russell Wilson that I'm familiar with. I know his grandfather. His grandfather is Harrison B. Wilson, who was the president of Norfolk State University. His father was a Dartmouth graduate. Dartmouth is an Ivy League school. I know his grandfather. I've been in his office. So what I'm saying is Russell comes from a very upper middle class, if not wealthy, highly educated background. Sierra is an Army brat. Sierra is not a hood ghetto twerker. Now, she is a performer, but Sierra's father was a career military man. She's lived all over the world with her married mother and father. Future, for her, was an aberration. This is where I disagree with a lot of the men in the manosphere on the Sierra Future dynamic. Future is not the imprint of Sierra. If you go look and Google this, Sierra's high school prom date and boyfriend, do you know what he was? The high school quarterback. And she was a cheerleader. And when you look at that young man's face, he don't look like you. He looks like a carbon copy of Russell Wilson. And what I try to get the gentleman in this space to understand is, and they seem to skip over, is Sierra is exceptional. Sierra is exceptionally beautiful. She is exceptionally fit. And she was exceptionally wealthy when he met her, to the tune of $46 million of net worth, which was more than he was worth when he met her.
All facts.
So is it fair to say that Sierra stands as the notable exception to the rule, Chris, that you can get a mulligan if you're exceptional as a woman. Are we saying that?
Yeah, yes. If for a Super Bowl winning quarterback, if you have one kid and you have $40 million and you're in your near model looks, that there's probably only 10 women on the table that are in that sphere. If he decides to go in the celebrity world, there's probably 5 to 10 women that are on the table that he can go after. Yes, Sierra's going to Sierra, but what most people are talking about is not a Sierra situation. We're talking about a dude who's a school teacher or an engineer taking on a woman who is a dental hygienist or a nurse that has a kid in tow. What does that look like? That's what we're talking about.
And so that's why I say it's weird to use Russell Wilson and get upset about his decision and just be mad about his decision.
No, because women use that as a way to justify what they're you see how we broke down all the different variables that made this line up with Russell and Sierra? And so when you have this conversation, you have to line it up of what was their positive and negatives and why does this fit? What happens is people then reverse engineer that into them. So what they'll say is a woman who is a social worker with 2 kids, right? Who's 30 years old, will then look at a guy who is an engineer at General Motors. So she's a social worker who makes 65 grand, and the dude who works at General Motors who makes 125 grand. She's looking at him like, what do you mean you don't want to marry me?
Okay, but so what? And I don't mean to be so direct, but so what? It's not like she could beat you over the head with a club and make you marry her.
Correct. And
you just say,
that's
no,
fine.
I don't want you, and then go about your business.
Okay, and that's fine. But what happens next? Then people go onto places like social media or social commentary, like on these large media networks, and they blast out information, blast out stuff disparaging Black men's character. They don't want to marry. You don't want to marry a single mom. You see, that's where this all
But
comes.
they don't want to marry a single mom.
But
so the Black men are saying, I don't want to marry a single mom. So the Black women are saying, you don't want to marry a single mom. Okay, yeah, I don't want to marry a single mom.
And then at the same time, they put we're constantly getting beat with stats being put out. The economic condition of Black precincts, Black neighborhoods, of the Black family, and meanwhile you have these. This is the crazy part about Black America. You know, in Black America is the only demographic group where the men have a higher income than the household income of the race.
Okay,
think
this
about
still
that.
is not answering my question as to how do their opinions and what they want affect you personally?
Because it affects ethnic.
You have the choice to say no. So when you're saying, well, it caused Black men to look bad, who is it making them look bad to?
Society at large. You don't think that Black men you think Black families being unstable don't hurt Black men socially and economically?
To who? Which group though? Who are you wanting it to look like?
In society at large. You don't think this is problematic if we have a bad ethnic image?
So Black people seem to accept the dysfunction because they're participating in it willingly and happily so. So I don't.
We're talking about the men who are not, though. We're talking about the men who they're not engaged in this dysfunction.
Okay, so but what I'm saying is the Black community at large is accepting of the dysfunction and there are some participating in it. So they're not looking at you and really saying, you know. So it seems to me this is not about you looking good to the Black community. This is you looking good to other groups. Your image and your identity for other groups. Because the women who are saying this stuff, when I look at these women, my first thought is, well, you're dodging a bullet. You shouldn't want to be with such women anyway.
Okay, let's stop right there. Let me get my man 6XXX. 6XXX, you're on the air. Obsidian Radio. We want to get him in right quick because he's just wanted to punch and get out. 6XXX, you're on the air. You got to unmute your mic. Go right ahead. Hello.
Yes, sir. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Go right ahead, man. You on the air.
It's just 6. There's only one thing that just stuck out to me the whole thing. I mean, the whole time. It's just when she said, I mean, maybe what she said was correct. Maybe guys do all better. Maybe. But the one word that stuck out to me was we were victims. Oh, no, you were willing participants. You made bad decisions. You knew what you was doing. No, you don't have that's my only thing I got to say. No, you have no right to
Now that's an
claim victim.
interesting vector in here. And by the way, Diego, if you want to jump in, you got to. There's something not right with your situation. You have to go out and come back in. We can bring you back up on the air. What do you guys think about that? Because Six makes a really good point about the victim remark. We were victims, which kind of reminds me of a kind of an iteration on I was young. And my response to that is ignorance of the law is no excuse, madam.
So I made this comment very early on. I did allude to it. I said I disagree with them being victims. I said I disagree that teenagers were being preyed upon. Bad decision making and judgment for sure. Because yes, poor judgment and decision making is part of the development with teenagers. Experiences help to create your neurons to create new pathways, what's called neuroplasticity, and it helps to construct and fully form your prefrontal cortex. And that usually takes time. So teenagers don't have a lot of experience and knowledge at that point in their lives to get them there to where now they can start making fully informed decisions. So I agree that they're making poor decisions, bad judgment. Being preyed upon, no, because when you're preyed upon, what does a hunter do with its prey? It stalks its prey. It's go after unwilling prey. So if you're willingly participating in it, then you're not someone's prey. He just older man approached you. You liked his vibe, because there are some teenage. If this was you being preyed upon, or this was something you didn't have any control over, then all teenage girls who have this experience would have the same outcome, meaning you would just go with this older guy. But there are some teenagers who are not attracted to older men, so when an older man hits on them, they decline, right? So again, you're not prey. You're just a willing participant who was too young to make a fully formed decision, understanding the consequences of your actions and what you're really getting into, but you still made the decision. And now, unfortunately, there may be bad consequences that happen to you, but those are consequences you're going to have to deal with, that you are going to have to deal with, not society as a whole. And I think Black women are trying to make this a societal issue rather than a personal issue.
That's an interesting point. Let me get these Rumble Rants in here, and then we'll continue. My man, thank you to Quiet Storm for the $5 Rumble Rant.
I'd buy that for $1.
He says, man, I'm just here for the conversation. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for that. Let me get my man Ryder, who comes through with a $50 cash app.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
Hey, Ryder, I got that thing for you, man. Hit me up. The Obsidian Files, Files, all one word, The Obsidian Files @gmail.com. I'll send that thing to you over the weekend. If not tonight, first thing tomorrow morning, I will send that to you. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for that. Let's get back to the conversation real quick here.
I also want to add, she said, she also said, I pay close attention. She said, older men and drug dealers.
Right.
Okay, let's go there. Now, my thing is, what would your parents say?
Well, it's
would you bring that older man home to meet your parents? Would you bring the drug dealer home to meet your parents? No, you would not.
Nah, in some of these women's defense, if their dad wasn't around, their mom might have been encouraging them. I've seen that. I've actually witnessed that.
I have too. I mean, I'm not going. Yeah, I have too. And it mostly came from, mostly single mother homes.
And so that's
Yes.
the question I was getting to, because I don't know about everyone else, but I do know for sure that Mia was born in a middle class, right? You were born and raised in a middle class
And
neighborhood.
so was Chris. So was
Okay.
Pablo.
So
I've
for
seen this
those
happen
of
with class.
you who were born in a middle class neighborhood, maybe that's where I'm lacking the understanding. The public school that you went to, if you went to a public school, was it a mixture of middle class environment and lower socioeconomic class children? And who was the predominant children? Was it the lower socioeconomic class children, or was it made up of mostly middle class children?
My
Middle
high
class.
school is probably not a good example because we had Escalade Row at my high school.
I don't even know what that means.
Escalade, meaning you could only park in that everyone drove to school, and there was an unofficial row at the high school where you had to drive a Escalade, but that also could be a Denali, a Range Rover,
Okay.
something like that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
What I'm asking, was your school a mixture of kids from the lower socioeconomic class or in middle class? Was it predominantly middle class? And who was the majority?
It's predominantly upper middle class. My high school would be similar to like a John Hughes film.
Okay. So how are you seeing drug dealers coming to pick up these children, these girls from school?
Because they pull up in the circle drive and pick them up.
Yes, sir.
And you know for a fact that they're drug dealers?
Yes. I played basketball.
Yes, sir. I seen them in the hood also.
I played 3 sports.
Well, I know it happens in the hood.
No. They would drive over from the hood and pick the girls up. Like, so, when the movie ATL came out, why was it a hit? Because that's what was going on.
Right, but that was a girl from a wealthy environment. She was going into the. So you're saying that the girls from your school, okay, so they were, all right. So I'm just trying to get a grasp on how this is happening in such environments. So the girls who were raised middle class, upper middle class, were in proximity to these quote unquote drug dealers, hood boys.
Yeah, they live
They would
5
go
miles down the street.
out of their environment into a new environment, and then that allows those men to have access to this new environment.
Correct. So what would happen is you go to upper middle class high school. 5 miles down the street is the poor city. Okay. And what happens is the poor city might be 80% black. At my high school, there's 2,500 kids, and there might be 100 black kids. The girls don't want to date the black kids at the black boys at the school, except for maybe a couple of them, because of whatever reasons, because their idea of a black male is a certain way. And so what happens is the guys down the street come and pull up, and they quote unquote look like the aesthetic of what they think a black man looks like, not like what their fathers look like or what their brothers look like.
So my confusion is because where I'm from, all of that was heavily gate kept, right? There is no way that people from the hood was able to just pull up to these schools in the suburbs, in the middle class environments, because then the police would be there, right?
We're talking about basketball games, football games, and
Right.
things of that matter.
So
Also,
again, they're heavily gate kept to where the police is there, and the police presence, or security presence, I should say, not necessarily police, but security presence deters that type of behavior. So the environments, the schools, they didn't have those deterrents.
No.
I mean, if they get out of
Not
class,
in my time is that.
From 1997 to 2005, if you just pulled up in front of the circle drive at the school, you could just jump in the car and go whoever pulled up. They weren't checking you like that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because if you go, even if you just go into the suburban neighborhoods, there's people are going to be looking at you, questioning. So
no, they
don't.
don't.
You tell me.
They don't.
Okay, so we have not even just my anecdotal experience, but we have situations where black males were in environments that were like, you don't belong here. I can't even just say black men, but black people are in environments that they felt the others felt like they didn't belong here, and so they were subject to harassment. So
Just
what I'm saying is, the school you went to, was it predominantly black or was it predominantly white? Was it a mixture? Like,
there was 2,500 kids at the school. There was 100 black people at the school.
so it was predominantly white, and no
Okay.
one looked at the fact that you had drug dealers who pull up, because they usually pull up a certain way, right? They got the music going, very showy, very flashy. They're not pulling up like the average student that goes to that school. So they're pulling up, and no one looked and said, where's Shayna going? Like, what? Who? Like,
Because I
Ma'am,
mean, all right,
ma'am,
you think these people are not? I mean, we like to say that Pookie and Ray Ray are stupid. They're not. They understand that when they cross a certain street, they got to turn the music down and they got to use their blinker. And they pull up in the driveway in their El Camino or whatever they got, and they pull up. The girls walk out. They jump in the car and they drive off.
right. So is El Camino's the average vehicle that's being driven at your school?
When an El Camino, let's put it like this: it wouldn't be the worst car at the school.
No,
I mean,
that's not the question I asked you.
The average car at my school would probably been like the average car would have been like a Jeep Cherokee or like a Wrangler or like a Chevy Malibu or something like that. That
Right.
would be,
So that's what I'm. So the
but you have to remember, everyone drove. You have to understand, everybody drives.
I get that. I understand that. But you have this guy pulling up in an El Camino. Look,
But it's
they typically don't. So what I'm trying to figure out is, how do you know that they're drug dealers? Because you're saying, well, he turns on the music, he's got his blinker on. So either he looks like a drug dealer, there's something about him that looks,
Because we know who these people are.
Look,
So
I'm just saying, me
okay,
personally,
let me explain it. So full disclosure, I lived in Rochester, Michigan. I went to school at Rochester High School. Pull it up on the map. It is 5 miles away from Pontiac, Michigan. Pontiac, Michigan is where there was nowhere to go. Like, for instance, there's no black barbershops in Rochester, Michigan. Okay, to go get your hair cut, go to church, do any of that sort of stuff, you have to go to Pontiac. So what would happen is what happens is I would maybe on like a Saturday afternoon, I'm going over to Pontiac to play pickup ball for a couple hours. I drive over there and you see who's hanging out on the side, you see who pulls up, and then a few weeks later you see him pull up at your high school.
Okay.
Or I'll go play a high school in Pontiac, and you'll see who's hanging out underneath the bench, underneath the baskets, because the students sit on the sides, and the guys from the neighborhoods always sit underneath the baskets.
Why are you driving into Pontiac for a pickup game?
and look, can I make it clear? Me, myself, I'm just going by her words. You understand? That's all I'm doing.
Yes.
That's all I'm doing. You understand?
Yeah, yes, and you said that you come from a different environment, so I understand the environment that you've come from.
I'm not basing my personal anecdotes on anything. I am just strictly going by her words. She said older men and drug dealers.
Okay, so what I am saying to the other men who seem to know for sure that women in the middle class area high schools are being picked up by drug dealers. I'm just trying to figure out, how do they know these guys are drug dealers? So he is saying that he knows that there are drug dealers because he has to travel outside of his environment for whatever reason, barbershop, pickup games, and to play against other teams in the district. So he sees these guys, and then next thing you know, he sees them at his school. So there seems to be, in these environments, there's a lot of cross mingling and not any gatekeeping on behalf of the adults. Because I'm trying to figure out how kids born and raised in the middle class have access to, or in proximity to, kids who are born in the lower socioeconomic classes, to where now they're engaging in such behaviors. And it seems to me there was no gatekeeping by the adults.
There's no way to gatekeep this.
Yes, you can.
Okay, I'm going to disagree. as I've seen it way too many times where there's this cross pollination, especially like, for instance, I see it all the time in other communities where for instance, there's there's a set of South Europeans in my town that I live in now. There's the wealthy South Europeans from Albania, Romania, and everything, and they live in my area. But the ones who are like working class, they live in the other area, and that's where all the restaurants and all that stuff is, right? They have to go to the parishes to like their Orthodox churches. They don't have Orthodox churches in our neighborhood. They have to go to the old neighborhood, to Romanian town or something like that, to go to the Orthodox churches. So their kids are going to have to, or they're going to get exposed. They're like,
So
this
if
would
your
happen.
children are going to the Orthodox church, you go to the Orthodox church, you get out your car, you go inside, and then when it's over, you get in your car and you go back home to your side of town. So what are they doing? They're letting the parents are inside during the services, they let their kids go out and mingle amongst the city. As far as the restaurants, suburbs have, especially major cities, suburbs have their own downtowns, they have their own restaurants and everything else. So as a woman who's has raised her own child in the suburbs, in the middle class, who has not had these issues where there's some cross-pollination of culture from middle class to lower socioeconomic class behaviors and mindset, that was because I was very big on gatekeeping. So no, you're not going, oh, your friend lives in the hood? Absolutely not. Your friend can come here.
So it's very clear to me that, based again, I like what Six says, based again on what Randy Rosario says, it's fair to say she didn't have a mom like you, Letitia. I think that's fair to say.
In the hood,
and by extension, a lot of other women in our community didn't have a mom like you. And clearly, and to me, from what I can tell, they didn't have a dad either. So whatever they had, it wasn't you, be that male or female as a parent. So with that being said, my thinking is this, as we wind this up, my thinking is this. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Bottom line, your choices are your own, and so are your consequences. It's that simple. Can dudes be still bitter? Yes. But are you accountable for your own actions? Yes. And it seems to me, Miss Letitia, it seems to me, I could be wrong about this. It seems to me the issue for many, not all, but for many Black women, they don't want to deal with that part of it. There are consequences. You choose to let yourself go physically. Let's get right to it. You gain a lot of fat. Well, one of the consequences is the men you want aren't interested in that. That's a consequence. You choose to cavort with drug dealers or older men when younger. Well, a possible consequence can be when you're older, men find out about that and are not interested. That's the way it works. Why do so many Black women have a problem with that?
Ooh-wee.
That would be my question. Why do they have an issue with that? Ignorance of the law is no excuse. You didn't have a dad in your life is no excuse. Your parents told you to focus on your education in school is no excuse. Can dudes still be bitter? Yes. But why is it that so many Black women think that they are exempt from the realities of the physical world, Miss Letitia? Why is that?
Excellent question, sir.
Is Miss Letitia there?
I think she may have dropped. We might have lost her.
Oh, well, I guess we'll have to wait until next week to find out. But that's my thing. Bottom line, I mean, this is where I'm at with it. My thinking is this, and we've all heard we being Black men have all heard some iteration of what I said. I was young. My parents told me to focus on school. I didn't have a dad. I was touched. What else? Emotional eating. What? Listen, my thinking is this: ignorance of the law is no excuse. And in the real world, consequences come from actions. And some things you do, you can't come back from. That's just the way it goes. I'm trying to understand why that's so difficult for so many black women to understand. Just like she is attempting to know why so many guys are so bitter 20 years on, I'm trying to understand why so many women can't get that there are consequences to actions. So it looks like to me, both me and Ms. Randy Rosario have questions. That's what it looks like to me.
If Jesus can't save these hoes, why are you trying? What make you think you greater than Jesus, nigga?
All right, Dr.
Chaos.
What could I say? This is a very interesting week. I got some out of this. I know a lot of people got some out of this. I think Chris Summers is on some form of narcotic drugs. She's talking about how she's with certain men. That is something that's a mental issue, and we all know most women today are on a lot of pills. I won't be surprised she's on it as well, personally. Now, in regards to men entertaining older women just for play fun, I'm pretty much against that. And the reason why is because if these women don't got kids already, or they have, you as a young man, you don't want to put yourself in any risk with these women, regardless their eggs are freezing or not. Because let's be honest, there's stories of teachers getting knocked up by young boys, and they're putting the system on these boys. So as long as the system is still at tack, where they're still holding, no matter what you are, your age as a young boy become a man, you're still accountable. So the best approach is you deal with women that you deal with, that you know for a doubt, and not only that, make sure you got your protection on, and play as long as you can. But I wouldn't be sitting there just engaged in any type of recreational activity with older women at this point, because too many of them now are popping out with babies. Regardless, it is less risky. Don't bank on that. Don't bank on that. As a man, you gotta think, move intelligently, because they know the system in their favor. If the system was not in their favor, then by all means you could probably play around with it, but still you gotta move with caution. But as long as the system is in their favor, you don't want to be this, mess around with your Johnson, your seed, with a lot of these women, especially the older they are. Because think about it. If they didn't get their family back then and they're looking for one now, you as a young dude, you don't want to put yourself in any situation. I'm just keeping it real. Thank you.
The chaos.
They like the chaos.
They like the chaos. So when you're able to
The chaos.
let that chaos reign with,
The chaos.
let that chaos reign with,
The chaos.
let that chaos reign with,
Must reign.